justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Ms. Baird?
Here.
Mr. Drake? Here. Mr. Eskin?
Here.
Mr. Lawson?
Here.
Mr. Track? Absent. Mr. Sweat?
Here.
Mr. Riddell?
Present.
Thank you, Bobby. And you have proof of publication for tonight's meeting?
Yes, ma'am, confirmed.
Thank you. Our moment of prayer, Pastor Penn. Thank you for being with us.
All right, let's pray together, shall we? God, we come before you and we thank you once again for our township. Thank you for Union Township. Thank you for all the residents here. Thank you for our supervisors. Lord, we're so thankful for all their time and their effort that they put in. For each one of our supervisors, Lord, we ask for strength. We ask for clarity of thought, Lord. And we ask that you give them wisdom as they conduct the business of our township. We thank you for them and we value them. And Lord, we just thank you for this place and ask for your spirit and your peace upon this place tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All righty, moving on to public comment. Usually Mr. Track's middle of this. Okay, so I believe we're at 427, Miss Linda Evans-Bourne.
Linda Evans-Bourne, 22 Parkview Drive, Finleyville, PA. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I have a question for Supervisor Dupree. Have you been put on the signature cards for the bank accounts and the pension funds for the Union Township taxpayers?
Only one. Washington Financial.
Okay, and how many accounts do we have?
5 that I know of.
Okay.
As of 10:30 this morning at Brentwood, Mr. Briding was still on those accounts.
And that's where the general fund is, because I see that on the bill pay.
Yes, I got information about contacts for 3 of the accounts, 3 of the 5.
Okay, so I believe at the last meeting, it was discussed that the next day you were supposed to be on them, which I'm not understanding why you weren't on them after the reorganization meeting. So at every reorganization meeting, it's the same votes that are taken, and you appoint the 5 supervisors sitting there as on the signature card, all of the accounts. I serve the term, I'm well aware of what happens. I attend meetings, I'm well aware of what happens. Mr. Trax, who isn't here tonight, but he has participated in 9 years of reorganization meetings, so he knows what happens. Heather Dare has participated in 7 years of reorganization meetings, so she's aware of what's done. And Mr. Lawson, you've participated in 5 years of reorganization meetings. And at every reorganization meeting, 5 board members are voted on for signature cards, as was done at our reorganization meeting here June 3rd, 2022.
January.
January, I'm sorry. I abbreviated it. I couldn't read my own writing. Thank you for correcting me. January 3rd, 2022. This is April 27th. It's absolutely unacceptable that someone that the people voted in is not able to view those accounts in which our tax dollars are in. You all were aware that she was a part of that vote. You approved those minutes. You participated in that vote, as well as Gary Sweat and Sarah Scott from Sweat Law Offices. You both are municipal attorneys, correct? You know what the law is. You were in attendance. Yet, last meeting, you sat here and said nothing about the fact that she should have been put on. The meeting minutes were sent an email to the Secretary-Treasurer the next morning. She said she needed meeting minutes. You've had them in your possession since January. There's no excuse for them not to be emailed, scanned and emailed to the banks. It's unacceptable. There is no excuse that this board or the employees could possibly give the over 1,100 taxpayers that voted for that woman to represent us. So it would be, in my opinion, that many other taxpayers, that a question needs to be asked. What is it that Ms. Dupree cannot see those accounts? And you're asking her to approve bills from the Brentwood bank account right here every meeting, but yet she can't, as well as a lot of people in this room. We're not going away. Ms. Dupree will be put on those accounts. The law says that she will, and the taxpayers that voted for her will ensure that she will. I've known Supervisor Dupree for over 25 years. She is one of the most honest, hardworking, intelligent businesswomen I've ever known. The disrespect to her is shameful. It's outrageous and it's unwarranted. This board owes Supervisor Dupree an apology, as well as some of the staff and especially the unprofessional services paid for by the taxpayers of Union Township. We are very lucky to have an elected official that is a champion of the people that she serves. This game that is being played here needs to stop, and there is no excuses for what happened. None whatsoever. You find that funny, Mrs. Dare? Your smirk over there? It's not funny. And it's not funny to the people of this community what has been going on here. And there's audio tapes of it, videotapes of things that have been said and done to her, and she has been treated awfully. And taxpayers that were outraged at what happened at the last meeting were threatened by the chairperson that the police officer was going to take us out because we were expressing our First Amendment right of freedom of speech and our civil rights to participate in our local government. It's on audio tape, it's on videotape. There's no denying what happened. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Next comment. Anybody else have public comment before we get to business? There's two people coming up. Ms. Spears, are you coming to talk?
I signed up.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure. I thought I was under.
Oh, you must have, when the comment was happening, I didn't look over, so yes, absolutely.
My name is Bernie Spear, 5106 Chevy Chase Drive. I also have comments regarding the last meeting. I am finding it deeply disturbing by the lack of respect being afforded for a new supervisor. As a new supervisor or any newly elected official, there should be a protocol in place to provide as much information to this newest board member regarding union contracts, employee contracts, litigation, banking information, ordinance books, resolutions, keys to the building to access her mailbox. And any training should be authorized with full reimbursement to any new elected official so that they can be competent in their job. It is obvious to those attending the meetings and watching remotely that there is hostility towards Supervisor Dupree. An example would be the negative comments made by Mr. Dare at meetings that I attend. Supervisor Lawson at a meeting said that he would never work with Supervisor Dupree and go home a plant of flowers. I was at that meeting. It is on tape, and it has been viewed by quite a few people. The last meeting you denied that you said that. I'm guessing you're not aware of some of the comments that you make. What I would suggest that each individual supervisor sitting at this meeting tonight should be worried that somebody doesn't go and open Pandora's box of your life and your business lives and open up your discretions, your transgressions, your inaccuracies to be brought public in a light that may affect you negatively. I would suggest that we go forward in this community and be united as a board, be open to each other, but more importantly, the residents and the taxpayers, because we deserve it.
Ms. Spears?
Yes.
Your comment about the keys, getting the keys and so forth. So to date, after multiple requests for keys, I have this one. It doesn't open any of these doors. That is multiple requests for keys. I'm sure the other supervisors do have keys to the building.
When I had an office here, I was not afforded the keys to these either, so if I came in
I mean,
the door, I
this
couldn't
key,
get
I
any
believe,
further.
just goes to the sliding door out front to the other sliding door, and that's as far as I can go.
There's just an injustice happening here. People are very annoyed by what's occurring, and we don't appreciate it. Ms. Dupre got the most votes of any of you people sitting up there in the election that she won.
Thank you very much. Okay, one more comment? Please state your name for the...
Kevin Dare, 6187 Route 88, Finleyville, PA. At the last meeting, the person stood at this podium and said that she was an American citizen. She had the right to attend and participate in local public meetings without being criticized, bullied, intimidated, or shamed for making public comments. She said that she should not, that this should not happen from supervisors or their relatives. That did not happen at the last meeting. I was yelled at by Supervisor Dupree for legally filming. This is an activity that you're allowed to do under the Sunshine Law. You're allowed to film this meeting. It's being filmed right here, right now.
Yes, it is.
For the record, I never said filming.
You did.
No, Mr. Dare, I didn't. You'll have to go back. Apparently, you don't remember what you said.
Can we please let
I do remember what
everybody
I said.
have their comments unimpeded, please? Respectfully. Everyone was able to talk at the podium.
And after Ms. Dupree left the meeting before it was over, her husband, Richard Cox, threatened her on his way out the door.
Is that right? Is that right?
Richard.
Richard.
Is that right?
Richard, stop.
I'd like the same respect, just to give my public comment.
Go ahead and continue to lie, Mr. Dare. We'll wait.
I hope the person who stood here at this podium and said she was an American citizen and wanted to be free from all those bullying, intimidating, shaming, judgmental comments at these meetings saw that behavior at the last meeting and said to themselves, this is exact behavior that I was talking about. And I also hope that she spoke to Supervisor Dupree and Richard Cox and relayed how disappointed she was at their behavior and hostility towards supervisors, towards Mr. Sweat, and towards the audience members. Anything less than that would be hypocritical. Filming of the meetings is covered under the Sunshine Law. You can do it at any public meeting in the state of Pennsylvania. And yes, there's a lot of lives that's been upset here. Pandora's box, it's been opened. It has been. There's been lawsuits. There's been lies down on affidavits in these lawsuits. And it has affected a lot of people's lives. A lot.
I don't know anything about that.
There are many people that I talked to, and a lot of them watched last meeting. And they are outraged at the hostility that was shown by Ms. Dupree and her husband. I think that the hostility has to go down. The yelling, the hostility in the room has to go down. The business is not being done correctly. There's yelling, there's hostility, and it's almost an impossible environment to get in. And I hope that it changes.
So, on his comment, for the record, Michelle Dupree never said anything about anybody's right to film It more or less had to do with jumping around, making faces at me, and waving his phone at me. For the record, I have actually watched Mr. Dare film my minor child in these meetings, as well as many other residents here watched him do that. So if I was going to ask someone to stop filming, I would have did it at that time. Now, also, it is on record and on tape. There was someone with a recording right next to my husband. So for the record, my husband didn't threaten anybody. There was somebody with a video camera on. So if Mr. Dare wants to stand there and lie, like he usually does, he can continue to do that. And as far as the hostility on my part, I guess Robert Rules of Order doesn't include that you have to sit back down and wait for public comment. Of course, Mr. Dare apparently gets to have public comment 4 or 5 times a meeting, I've noticed. But, so if there is hostility, it was brought upon the fact that there was an illegal motion made, and everybody here knew it was illegal. Everybody was CC'd continuously on my request to have that taken off the agenda, including Mr. Sweat and Sarah Scott, and that it was not legal to make a motion to deny me to be a signator on the bank accounts. It's just not legal. And Mr. Sweat knew it wasn't legal, and I'm sure Sarah knows it's not legal, and I made everybody on this board, through my emails, know that it wasn't legal, but you did it anyway. And so if there's hostility, I'm sorry I lost my temper, I'm just frustrated at the way you people treat me. I mean, we had an executive session, for the record, at 5 o'clock today. I want you guys to know that I came at 5 to 5, and I sat here by myself because my fellow board members didn't show up.
It's on the agenda.
So I sat here by myself, and my fellow board members just didn't come to it. You can sit down, Mr. Dare. Public comments at the end of the meeting.
I think I'm entitled to rebuttal.
You're not, Mr. Dare.
I'll give it at the end of the meeting.
That's fine.
Public comment is still open if anybody else has a public comment. No one should be intimidated at this podium. This is the people's building. It's the people's building. So does anybody have any comment?
Is it an agenda item, Mr. Dare?
I'm not done.
You went and sat down.
I was taking.
If you would like to get up and lie some more, Mr. Dare, feel free. I mean, she's the chairman. She lets you talk 4 or 5 times every other meeting, so you might as well do it this one
And
too.
everyone else can get back up.
And
and
just
rebuttal.
keep in mind, it goes down a slippery slope of everybody getting back up and rebutting.
I'll save it for the end.
Okay. I'll wait.
Does anybody else have any public comments? Okay, we will move on with this.
I have a question. Sorry. Who was he referring to?
Ma'am, could you state your name for the record and address, please, if you have a question? Thank you so much.
Debbie Cannell, 16 Rebecca Drive, Finleyville, PA 15332. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I don't know who that gentleman was referring to. Like all of us are shaking our heads like, who is he referring to?
I don't know if you're asking me directly.
Anybody.
Well, it sounds like he's a public member and he has a right to stand up and speak. And if you want to ask that, I guess he would have to get up and speak if he felt like answering you. I mean, if you're...
But he described it. He just didn't give a name or anything. And I saw the video of the last meeting. And I didn't see any, ruckus or anything like that where there was a person saying things.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other public comment? I encourage the audience that is attending here, please stay for the remainder of the meeting so you can get some facts on what's been presented here tonight. I know that there's a lot of supervisors prepared to talk about what happened at the last meeting. So thank you again for your patience. Moving on to executive sessions. There was an executive session Wednesday, April 27th at 5 p.m. Mr. Sweat, did you attend that? Today?
I was here.
Okay, alrighty. Item B, department report, solicitor report. Do you have anything to add?
I have a couple of items that I've been asked.
And then, for the record, before you go on, did anyone else attend the 5 o'clock executive session?
It was just you and I here.
So, to my knowledge, we were waiting for everybody to get here. So there was no executive session because the other board members didn't show.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple items I'd like to just clear up for the record.
Yes.
What's come up over the last couple of months, and this was brought to our attention by Mrs. Puglisi. The township issued, I believe, a W-2 1099.
We can't, there's too much talking back there, we can't hear it.
To Ken Puglisi in the amount of a little over $7,000. I was asked to look into that. And as you know, there is a disagreement between Mr. Puglisi and the township over the amount of money that he is owed for the last year that he worked
That's litigation.
at the township.
Wait, that's litigation, dude.
Excuse me.
No.
And in going through the records, he absolutely is entitled to monies that he's earned, vacation, and the benefits. And once that was looked at, the township made a tender offer of $7,678.80. Because he's represented by counsel, my office forwarded that check to Mr. Makel, representing what the township believed he was owed for the last part of his employment at the township. Mr. Palermo, the CPA for the township, issues the W-9s and 1099s each year and just takes it off of the ledger of checks that were written. And so he issued a check based on that check being issued by this office. When this came up, I had Bobby check the records, the bank records, and that check was never cashed. Since it was not cashed, I then instructed Mr. Palermo to amend and take care of the W-2 that he sent out, because you know a copy goes to the IRS. And it's my understanding as recently as this morning that he's in the process of doing that. So that explains why he received the W-2. It was based on that amount that was tendered. I know there was no settlement. You didn't sign the check, so they're going to...
And you're sure that went to Dennis Makel? You're absolutely positive?
Absolutely. I have a certified letter to Mr. Makel with the check.
Okay.
Right. And the township stands ready, willing, and able to issue that check at any time. It is
that check?
That check, $7,000, well, less withholding because he was an employee.
That's already taken.
That's already taken out. Yes. But yeah,
I know how to read a check.
The
and a
township
W-2. I write
prepared to issue that check.
I know.
That's not disputed.
Nope.
That's the Puglisi check.
Is my W-2 getting fixed off of my taxes?
According to Mr. Palermo, he's fixing it.
When were taxes due to be filed? Do you know?
Ma'am, I'm just telling you, Mr. Palermo...
How long ago did I tell you about it?
That
How long ago did I bring that to your attention? 2 months?
Yeah.
Okay. You better be kidding me.
Yeah, on the signature cards, I mean, I never took the position that Mrs. Dupree was not entitled by law as an elected official to sign the signature cards. The first half of this is that the banks gave the office treasurer these signature cards that everyone signs. And the bank's rule is, we need your Social Security number. Well, Mrs. Dupree objected to releasing that Social Security number. And I have different emails back from her indicating I'm not going to give my Social Security number up. I don't intend to sign any checks. I mean, that was initially how it was. In fact, I sent her a letter asking her to reconsider that position. And I think as a result of some of the fiasco of the last meeting, and it should be noted, I never instructed Bobby or anybody to put that item on the agenda. My position is these 5 supervisors sit in a fiduciary capacity and are required to manage and hold those accounts. And it's my understanding that arrangements have been made for Mrs. Dupree to go to each of the banks and work with those officials. And once again, to get her signature, you'll have to comply with whatever the bank says in order to recognize it. And I do know that all of the signature cards that have been signed by these supervisors and any other supervisor I've been associated with requires a Social Security number. So that was the upset, that was the mistake, if there was a mistake that was made. But my legal position has always been, she is entitled and needs to be on those accounts. The other item I want to clear up is Mrs. Dupree, I believe, before you were elected, filed multiple right-to-know requests. And one of the right-to-know requests, you had to pay, I think, $15.50 for copies. You then alerted Sarah Scott that you wanted a refund because...
No, I didn't. That's not what happened.
Well,
I asked for certified copies. I got a refund in a letter that said that the certified copy, there was no certified copy to give me, and that the copy that I got was good enough and the check was...
I guess the bottom line is you asked for a refund of $15.50. That was sent to you by my office. I checked today with my bookkeeper. It hasn't been cashed yet, but did you get it?
Yeah, the question was never that I got it. At the same time that I got it, I came to a meeting and it was listed on the general fund.
As a payment.
Is a check written out of the general fund on the bill pay list.
Right.
And so I asked Mr. Kroon, he happened to be the attorney that was here at that meeting that night, and I showed him, I said, there's a problem here. This is the general fund account. It says my name on here and this check number, but you can see this check came from your office. He said, cash it. This is exact words, cash it. But it never, how is the general fund? I mean, I know that's just $15.50, but the check didn't come out of the Brentwood Savings Bank general fund.
No, I believe it came from my office.
It did, but it is,
We
I have a
in
copy
turn
of the bill pay.
included that as a cost advanced by the township, by our office to the township on our
The
next
bill
bill.
pay says there was a check written to Michelle Dupree for it.
I don't think that
I
it
have
was ever
a
signed.
copy of the bill.
Was it signed?
I think
I have no
Bobby,
idea.
Bobby can weigh in as the treasurer.
There was a check initially written, and then I was advised to void the check, and the check would be coming from Swetlaw offices.
So that check was never cashed, the township check?
No, it was voided.
Okay, it didn't show voided on the bill pay.
It was voided after the fact.
It didn't show voided on any bill pays, even the next
It was
meeting.
voided after the bill pay was done. I was instructed to do that after the bill pay was done.
Okay, normally when you void a check, it'll show on the bill pay, voided.
The next one.
Okay, I just wanted to report.
Thank you so much.
Also, was there a like a paper form of the solicitor's report by chance? Because I didn't
A
get
what?
one. The solicitor's report, is there like a hard copy of the solicitor's report, or is it just laminated?
No, it was included in the April 8th.
No, I'm talking today's.
I don't do a report every meeting. I do it
That's what I'm
first of
asking.
the
You were
month.
doing a report. I didn't know if it
I
was a
didn't-
synopsis or
No.
not.
No.
Also, for the record, what you had sent me was this registered letter. It has a lot to do with insisting on my social security number for payment as a supervisor.
That too.
At which I had said that I am not taking pay as a supervisor. I'm doing this at no cost to the taxpayers. And that was somewhat of your insistence. Not so much the accounts, but you quoted a lot of second-class township code that says that the township's obligated to pay me, that you are a statutory employee of Union Township and the Internal Revenue Service, that you confirmed this with Scott Colburn of PSATS, that you sent me documentation forms of I-9 federal forms to fill out for payment, although I had told Mr. Palermo in January, I had told the Secretary, Assistant Treasurer, that I was not taking payment as a supervisor. There's not been a bank I talked to that asked for my social security number, but you and Ms. Singer has multiply asked me for that and many, many other information. And when I ask, who's asking for this information, I get the runaround. I was asked to ask you for it. Well, could you give me the contact number of who's asking for it? Is there a problem with giving it to me? Can't you just give me the contact to who's asking for it? The only way you asked me for my social security number had to do with payroll forms. And if anybody wants to see the letter, here it is.
Okay, Mr. Sweat, are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions for Solicitor Sweat? Okay, so we can move on to treasurer's report. We normally don't have a treasurer's report, but Mr. Lawson requested this to clear up some of the questions from the last meeting, and obviously the public has many concerns as well regarding this signatory card from Supervisor Dupree. Mr. Lawson?
Yes. My report has to do only with the treasurer and the assistant treasurer's bonds. Each bond is for $500,000 in our personal names. The insurance company that writes the township bonds has advised me after 4 months, a couple issues need to be entered into the Union Township's monthly minutes, meeting minutes for the record, and need to be followed up with supporting documents. One, we have a newly elected supervisor that does not want to follow our existing protocol of giving the credentials to the township as all the other supervisors have done in the past. For authorization to sign the checks, the township has sent the required township information to the banks for the supervisor to go directly to the bank and have the required paperwork filled out. After the bank is done and the supervisor is authorized to sign, Union Township and the treasurer will need from the bank verification of the signature only, no credentials. The second item is, it's my understanding that the same supervisor has not given us information for payroll and credentials to pursue the payroll as required by second-class township supervisors, get yearly a pay of $2,500. Again, what the bond company has suggested is that I, as the treasurer and Union Township, require is a letter signed by the supervisor that they do not want paid and a release of all future claims that they have not received the required yearly payment of $2,500. I will then send this information to the bond company for their approval of my bond duties. I'm doing this as directed by the insurance company that writes the bonds for our township. I also would ask the solicitor to help me obtain this stuff in any way we can. And lastly, I don't want to do this extra work. I don't like being put in this situation of personally being liable, not having to accept the bond. I would not have accepted the bond position of the treasurer had I known this. I use bonds for my business. And if I have a problem with the bond in here, it's going to reflect on me. I did this as a result of the last meeting. Nobody has denied anybody to sign it. We have encouraged the supervisor to give us the credentials. We send it to the bank does it. It's the way it's always been done. We've never had a problem. Because of the meeting last night, I had to pick the phone up and find out what was how responsible I can be. The bond company told me it's very responsible, and they're expecting this paperwork back, and that's why I requested for a treasury report. And that's all I have to say at this point.
I have a question for you, Mr. Lawson. So you're the treasurer. Who is responsible to get the signature cards done? Who is responsible to send the meeting minutes to the bank and have the signature card signed? Because the only request for information from Michelle Dupree has had to do with payroll. It's had to do with my medical history and any medical illnesses I have. It is forms to sign that will allow anybody to look up my driving history, not just my valid driver's license, allowing an unknown person, doesn't say who I'm allowing, but you want me to, the board wants me to fill out forms allowing anybody to research my driving history. Now, Mr. Lawson, you have never reached out to me by email. I have emailed back and forth with Ms. Singer, so she has never voiced any of that stuff that you just said in the 4 months of emails going back and forth. If you were the one that wanted item 3 and 4 on the agenda last meeting, I was talking to the wrong person then to have it taken off. Now, here's a copy.
Could I answer a couple
Here's
questions
a copy of
before
the
I forget all?
meeting minutes for you to send to the bank from January 3rd. They're there. They've been online for months. The banks I haven't seen anything from any banks that say that they require anything more than my driver's license and my signature. And for somebody to go down the bank and take Al Brining off, because he's still on the Brentwood savings accounts as of 10:30 this morning.
The public talked about protocol, that they've been there all these years, and they quoted how many years everybody's been here. There's never been a problem, to my knowledge of protocol. Any supervisor that came here surrendered their credentials. Bobby's bonded. She has a $500,000 bond in her personal name, and I'm bonded. To get your signature and get bank approval, that's all that was required. And the secretary handled it from there, and the bank got us the signature cards. That's what I know of the bank. Let me finish. We've never had a problem with that. As far as the driver's license, that is required by the township. You were a roadmaster, and if you're going to drive any of the township vehicles, we require a driver background through our insurance company requires it. This has been the protocol 5 years I've been here, and as long as I know. I did not request that to be on the agenda last week, although I think it was totally taken the wrong way. It should have been discussed.
You actually you guys, Mr. Eskin made a motion to deny me to be a signator on the accounts. Mr. Trax seconded it. It's illegal. You guys can't vote for that. You can't.
They did. I don't want to argue about that. It was not intended for that. I don't know why you took it that way. I think Mr. Eskin said it as described as good as he could. I probably would have said the same thing. I didn't know enough information. That's why, after you got upset, the next day I said, I got to see where I'm at with liability. That's why I made these calls to the...
Does anybody here read the emails? I CC everybody. I CC everybody my concerns with that being on the agenda. You guys didn't make a board motion to take a felon off the bank accounts. When you had a board member who was a felon, who was taken off this board, you didn't make a board motion to take him off, but Mr. Brining, 3 months after he's no longer a supervisor, still sits on the Brentwood savings accounts. Now, I don't know if it's the treasurer or the assistant treasurer's job to get that off of there, but Mr. Brining still has the right to sign checks on the Brentwood savings account as of 10:30 this morning. Now, I know you're trying to do your due diligence as the treasurer and all, but apparently the confusion is I'm the only person in history that has been a supervisor of a township and did it without pay. So since I'm not getting paid, I am not an employee. Since I am not an employee, I do not need to fill out employee forms. I do not need to fill out any kind of form, employment form. As far as the township trucks, or vehicles. I drive enough vehicles. I don't even have a key to the front door. This key won't open the door. What am I? I'm going to drive around. And the form you guys gave me doesn't even have the township's name on it. It's some downloaded form that has whiteout over the signature things. It's recycled. I have to know. I mean, this is my life we're talking about. You got that woman there with a W-2 for her husband a year that he didn't work here. I'm very concerned about filling out employment forms when I'm not an employee. And I have expressed that many times, but you have never reached out to me. You have never reached out to me with these questions that you have all of a sudden. And in 4 months, there's not one email that I've gotten from any board member here. Not one. Nor have I ever gotten a response from any of these board members to any of the many that I have CC'd to them. Not once. And if you guys say that you have ever answered an email that I've CC'd you on or ever sent me one, certainly, I mean, I don't know why you guys provided these tablets. Apparently you guys don't use them.
Okay, Mr. Eskin, did you have a comment?
Now, Mr. Lawson pretty much answered it. I said last week when I denied it. Good poor choice of words. I should have tabled it due to seeing all the emails going back and forth, not having enough time to respond to anything. I had no idea what was going on. And I wasn't going to vote on something that I had that I had no knowledge about.
You were voting on something. You were making a motion to vote on something.
Yes, I was making a motion.
So you say now you didn't have the information.
You're putting words into my mouth.
You said it.
I denied it because I did not understand what was going on. Can I talk? I did not understand what was going on with the signature cards, not giving up your information. As everybody in here who ever served on this board, you're not going to tell me you didn't give up your driver's license, your social security number.
I've given my driver's license.
I understand that, but there was all the emails going back and forth. I didn't understand it. So
how come you didn't respond to them?
Well, you could have asked.
You could have just asked me. You could have responded to me.
And that was it. We were trying to do that last week, but it got out of
You were trying to humiliate me publicly.
Humiliation publicly. Yes.
I didn't understand.
You did it.
But you never once reached out during the email process. You never once said, Michelle, I don't understand. You never once answered an email. There was many. No one on this board in January ever provided me any contact information for the banks. I didn't even know what accounts we had. I've never seen a bank statement. Not a treasurer, not an assistant treasurer.
Anything, and I'm the treasurer. When I first started here, I was never provided with anything.
No one said, hey, here's some signature cards. Oh, you just like called every bank in town and said Union Township doesn't account for you?
Excuse me, can we please keep the chatter down? It's very hard to listen to the minutes, to transcribe them with all this chatter in here. Thank you.
I appreciate the debate at the board table. I just wanted to remind everybody of Robert's rules to keep order. If you would mind directing the comments through the chairperson, just to keep the level of stress down, and so we can finish the discussion, if that would be okay. Statements on this?
As a treasurer, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, and
Mr. Chairman, if I may make a comment, just for my previous knowledge, the only key, because the security doors are different doors, your key will open the back door and then you can get into any of the offices.
I was told this opens the sliding door out front.
Which it does, but then not the security doors. So we can try it after the
meeting. Just to clarify for you. So I asked for the keys in January. I was told that Mr. Brining hadn't returned them all yet. I asked for the keys a week later, and I was told that we were going to organize the keys and mark the keys. We don't know what keys are. And I said, oh, that's all right, just give them to me in a bow. And then after repeated asking again and again and again, I got this. And then I said, well, what about the keys to the garages and stuff? Oh, you don't need those. Only Mr. Lawson needs them. Mr. Eskin needs them because, 911 has it that they call Mr. Lawson, then they call Mr. Eskin, then they call... So I don't need those keys. I don't need keys to anything, apparently. Now I got this key that I've tried on all the doors. It apparently just works for the slider.
Bobby,
That was the key that Hal Browning had. It opens the back door. These security doors Nobody has keys to these.
I know, either.
The night that I had to call Mr. Lawson and Mr. Eskin to come down to let Tuscany Estates in here to use the boardroom, I had to explain to David, you need to go in the back door and go through the offices because nobody has the keys to these security doors. They're locked up. They're security doors for a reason.
So is that key,
That key was the key that Hal had, and it should open the back door, yes.
is it the same key that all the supervisors have?
And the
No,
same key that I have.
Yes.
Okay, so it opens the security doors and it opens the back door?
Correct, but it will not let.
Or, I'm sorry, not the security doors, the double,
The sliders.
sliders and the back door.
What was the thing about the big pile of keys that had to be marked and labeled so that I knew what they were all for?
I found boxes upon boxes of keys in file drawers and stashed away. I don't know what they're all for, and I don't have time during the day to sit and match keys up. That key I knew was a master key that would let you in the back door.
Bobby, can I ask, I know that the township staff in 2020, prior to this wasn't done, but in 2020, they started, it was right before you got here, they started a new protocol. A gentleman started to have us sign off when we received keys. Has anybody signed off for keys here?
No, you have, Miss Dare. I never went through anybody's personnel files. That's not my job to do that. It's not my business. Not my job. It's not my business. I went through the files. You have signed off. Jim Garner, who started that. I do not have anybody else that has signed off on acceptance of keys. Ms. Dupree has signed off on acceptance of the one key.
So me and Ms. Dupree have signed off on acceptance of the
Yes.
key to the building?
Yes.
Okay, so I would suggest then, it sounds like to me that Supervisor Dupree is looking for keys to the road department and whatever else. If
Keys
you
that
could
everybody else has.
facilitate that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I was going to say, could you facilitate that she has a
Yes.
key to the road department? And I guess check back with Dave Eskin, he's also new, to see what keys he needs, if any.
Okay.
Okay,
Before we get off the keys, Bobby, I'll give you a list of what I have. I got keys for the generators. I have keys for the lift station pump. I have keys for the lift station gate. I obtained those keys when I first started by going around and that boxes you referred to, couldn't come up with anything, and I took the keys that Albert had one by one, went down and had them made. But I will give you what I have, tell you what I have, and I will sign for it.
Okay.
and just for the record, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think I wanted keys until around 2020. I worked here for several years without keys, and it just never, I would never come into this building without staff here myself, but everybody's up to do whatever they want. But I believe that that's, that's it. That's why I did that. And okay, so is that good on that subject? Everybody good with that? Can we move on? Did you have something? It looked like you wanted to say something. Okay. So, grab this here. And apologies, because we are almost into an hour into the meeting and we haven't even got to unfinished business. So, treasurer's report we just did, 3 chairman's report. Well, I had a few items and Mr. Sweat covered 2 of them. When we spoke at the last meeting, there was a couple statements made by Supervisor Dupree regarding reasons why she didn't or was reluctant to sign checks, approve bills. And she said she was going to unturn any stone to figure out a couple of these items. And I don't want to jump ahead of anybody. So if anybody has done the research on the concerns, please step ahead of me. And if anybody wants the floor. Has anybody done any research on the concerns?
The interim stuff?
Yes.
I don't know what that would be.
I will go ahead. I just didn't, because I figured maybe someone else did research
No,
on that.
I-
Okay.
Research.
So Ms. Dupree was concerned, one, about the pension funds, and that's an understandable concern. That was, I mean, when you get those Auditor General reports and it has a negative mark, you could really run with that and keep bringing that up, and it makes us all look terrible, and I get that, and it does, but in actuality, there's a very simple response to what happened with the 2020 Auditor General audit, and we asked at the last meeting, based on some of the concerns we heard, for Ms. Gladys to dig in there and give the board and the public an answer, and just by way of being completely transparent, the board has done this already several times to various audiences, but this would be good to refresh it again. We have different people here, so please, Ms. Gladys.
So here I have all of the audit reports as well as a memo that came from Gary Sweat's office. Like the Madam Chairwoman said, this has been brought up before. So just a very quick brief. In December 2020, 3 audits were completed by the Pennsylvania Department of the Auditor General on the 3 pension plans that are maintained by the township. The police pension plan, the non-uniform cash balance pension plan, which is for office staff, and the non-uniform union pension plan for road crew. Audits were performed for the period of January 2016 through December 31st, 2019. 2 audit reports pertaining to office staff and the road crew were found that overpayments were made by the state, and the township returned the money in the amount calculated for the overpayments, as well as any interest that was accrued. The township is responsible for filling out a Form AG 385 every year, which is due in March, that identifies the number of employees on the payroll for qualify for the pension, which generates the amount of state aid that is then sent to the township the following September. The form was not filed for the valuation date of January 1, 2019. It was not filed in March of 2020. According to the audit and the conversation with Lisa Snyder, the Assistant Director of the PA Auditor General's Office, this is a very common issue with township and often occurs in municipalities with high turnover rates, and she clarified that it is not an indictment against any individuals and it was corrected promptly. Regarding the police pension plan, no state aid has been paid to the police department since the police department was dissolved in 2005. A rule states that money must be returned within 2 years of the last payment of state aid. This would have been in 2007, but it did not occur. As advised by Gabrielle Schlonhoff of Mockenhoff Agency that has administered the plan since 1985, if the township returns all of the money right now, there is some liability to the township if the law should change that would require more benefits to be paid to retirees, spouse, or family from that pension plan. So the township has not taken any action on the pension plan yet, but action just needs to be taken before the next audit cycle, which is not for another 2 years. They have 3 options at this time, which is to return all of the money to the state, acknowledging the liability involved, or number 2, to determine the split of payments between the state and the township and divide the monies accordingly, or 3, negotiate a settlement with the state taking the position that the township has potentially some liability as long as the retirees and their families are still living. The township has been working with SWAT law offices to come up with a solution to this, and I would recommend at this time that it's put on the next meeting agenda for discussion so that this can be handled well in advance of the next audit cycle.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the detail. Just to recap, so out of the 3 audits, we know, number 1, the reason why we had to pay the $12,000 and some change was the state sends in money, direct deposits into the township bank accounts.
And those are based off of estimates, and overpayments are very common. You just have to pay them back what they find out.
Well, that form, just to be clear, is filed in March of each year with a projection of what the payroll looks like. On the strength of that number, they make their contribution. If somebody leaves, if somebody is laid off, new hires come in, that number obviously can change, and it does almost every year. That's when you're supposed to file a correction form and reimburse the state for any monies they pay. So let's say the March form says $200,000 and they pay 20%. That's what you get in March, April. But if it turns out at the end of the year, the payroll was $100,000, not $200,000, you receive an overpayment. That's exactly what happened.
Yes. So that form, thank you very much, Mr. Sweat. That form that Terry's talking about and that Attorney Sweat just bolstered, Bobby was 4 weeks new onto this job. She didn't fill out that form. She was just learning this job. And that's reflected in that audit. Is that correct? Because that form was the 2020 form. Bobby, you were actually 3 weeks new on the job. You had no idea what an AG 38 was. Yes. So if I may finish, please. With that said, that money was paid back with interest within a week of getting the notice of the Auditor General letter. Okay, and I'm sorry. Please.
When you looked at those pension funds, I am correct that it said something to the effect of there was inadequate record keeping to effectively monitor the pension funds.
Yes, I read that.
And it may be one word off, but it did say that there was inadequate record keeping by the township to effectively monitor the pension accounts.
That's finding number 2, that's correct.
Yes, we agree. We agree with that, absolutely. 100%, we own that. Number 2.
If for the record, if I could get some contact information for the bank that holds the pension accounts, because I still don't have that.
If I could just read, just so everyone is, so in the audit report, which is, this is public information, correct?
Yes.
So it says it was due to incorrect data certified on actuarial evaluation report resulting in an overpayment. So this record keeping had to do with the actuarial report filing, from what I understand.
Well, there's an independent agency that files those actual reports, and they admit they were late.
Yes. Yes, and that Auditor General report is online. Anybody can look at it, so please encourage everybody. And if you have questions, come back here. Going to the police pension fund. Terry, was I correct in hearing you that the board that was in place in 2005 who disbanded our police department, it was their duty to follow up with dissolving the police pension back in 2007?
Absolutely. So a rule states that within 2 years of state funds not being received, that money should have been dealt with, and that would have put it at 2007. So that board at the time, or at least the board of 2007 at the very latest, should have been responsible for that.
Okay, so 2008 board, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, into this board could have done that and should have done that.
That's correct.
So it is going to fall on the responsibility and the shoulders of this board, like a lot of things have. So I just want that noted for the record, and it sounds like Mr. Sweat's office has been working on dissolving this and has put some legwork into it, but if we could put it back on the agenda so the whole board can dig into this.
For the record, I'd also like the banking information for that account, because I don't have it.
That pension is the police pension is PNC.
Yes. Yeah, I have actually from Palermo's, and there was all the different accounts. That's how I knew I was missing a bunch. His profit and loss showed it, but the email I got this week listed 3 banks. And looking back at Palermo's profit and loss from January, there was 5 banks.
Bobby, is it correct that in our reorganization meeting, we list all the banks we do business with? So, and each board member has an office?
And the signers?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Bobby.
I said, yes, there are 5 banks. I do not have checks for PNC, and I do not have checks for Pliget. Pliget is not a local bank.
Okay, so I'm sorry. But we do that reorganization, and all 5 of us have made motions to agree to accept those banks. So we all do know what banks we deal with, just based on a reorganization.
If I could get that contact information, that would be great.
I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so...
Mrs. Deere, excuse me, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
I want to make a comment about that police pension fund.
Sir, would you please state your name for the record?
Yes, ma'am.
We're very out of order. Do you think you could wait till the end of the meeting?
No, ma'am. I have to interject this right now based on what was said. Larry Spore, 181 Chain Road, Finleyville, PA. And I, as one supervisor, have fiduciary responsibility to an extent for that police pension fund. And what was said here, and what Terry said, was somewhat inaccurate. When that police department was dissolved, at the behest of the state of Pennsylvania, because of this township's financial position, We were told to maintain that pension fund to an extent in the event that some point in the future, an officer who has served up to that point of dissolution and/or their family members who may become eligible to draw on a pension, that pension money was there. So it wasn't a situation where this township wasn't advised to just dissolve that piece pension account. They weren't advised to do such, quite the contrary.
Okay, thank you, sir. The reason why it was so important to clarify that, not only was there concerns from board members for doing their job based on these open-ended questions, this discussion from the last meeting caused some people who saved Facebook posts or Facebook or whatever social media, and it circulated again. And there was an individual that was stating that this board stole $650,000 on social media. It's very disturbing. And this needed to happen tonight because we need to solve these problems and let the public know who we are and know what the actual facts are. So thank you for digging into that, and if we could, please get that back on the agenda. I would appreciate that. I'm sure the other board members would. So W-2. There was also a statement that we illegally did something with the W-2. I believe Mr. Sweat has answered that tonight, and please, anybody who has any more questions, please refer them to Sweat Law Offices.
Nobody said illegal.
Also, there was a refund for the right to know, and I think we have solved that for the $15.52. So, again, any other questions on that?
I actually have I would like to add something to the agenda. I think it would actually help a lot. Act 65 of 2021 does allow for additions to the agenda if they're de minimis in nature. I want to add a motion to the agenda to make a board action to make the bank statements to all the bank accounts available at each meeting to the public for public review. I would like to add that to the agenda because I think that actually would help, and it doesn't cost anything to do, so it can be added to the agenda.
I would defer to Sweat Law Office regarding anything that could be added in.
Well, she's made a motion to add it. It would have to be voted on to add it to the agenda. So she's made a motion.
I think in light of transparency and for the questions the public has, I think I would like to make a motion to offer the bank statements for public review to all the township accounts at each meeting. So that is my motion. And apparently it's going to drop for interest. They're not interested in showing you the bank accounts.
Okay, does anybody have a second at all?
Of course not.
Yeah. Okay, excuse me, does the board have any seconds or motions?
I have a second. This was dropped as a comment.
Okay, so the motion dies then?
If the motion dies.
Okay, so, open up for that discussion?
There's no discussion if a motion dies. Robert's Rules of Orders, the discussion starts if it's seconded. If there's no interest in doing it, then you don't get to talk about it for a half hour about why you don't want to do it.
Madam Chairman, may I have the floor for a minute?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think that would be a good idea because the last statement you could get that would be accurate would be a monthly statement. So you would be handing a monthly statement out that's not going to reflect the actual balance. It could be a couple weeks old.
Here's my suggestion. First of all, we don't have this on the agenda right now. So this was my only concern. This is not on the agenda. I always understood from Sweat Law Office's new rule is you really have to have an emergency to add something.
No.
Or de minimis.
So here's a copy of the act.
Okay, so I'm absolutely interested in this, but I wanted to check with Sweat Law before we just add something, because I'm not freshed up on the nature of adding this.
It can be added, can it
I would
not?
like Sweat Law Office's opinion. I would like the attorney who's being paid $400 an hour to give the opinion to the board. That was my
So
only
it was
concern.
$400 an hour at 5 o'clock when no one came to executive session.
Holy shit.
Right?
Wow. Good God.
Is that at a discount?
Madam Chairperson, can I?
Yes.
I'm all for the public seeing our records, the financial records.
Seconded. Then second.
I don't want to second anything until we get.
Her office is signatory.
Okay.
Apparently I can't speak. Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Could be a discussion item next meeting.
Transparency is funny.
I absolutely would love that to be on as a discussion item.
For the next agenda.
Yes.
I think if we make a motion to add 2 more things to the agenda. They are de minimis in nature and they are allowed under Act 65 of 2021. One, I would like to add to the agenda, the supervisors getting their board packet no later than Friday before the meeting. I never got a completed board packet this meeting, nor was I provided a finalized agenda. Therefore, I would like to try to rectify this by making a motion for this board to get the board packet to the draft agenda on Friday when we get the draft agenda.
I think all that's an excellent idea. May I finish my chairman's report, please, before we move on to unfinished business?
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. Excuse me.
Okay, I will only need a minute or two here. It's my next thing on my report was, succinctly enough, the agenda process. And I was asked in the public to confirm what our process is to get the agenda to the supervisors. I don't know, again, it's unfortunate, but I was called today a few times and they said there was something on Facebook about employees. So I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to ask you, Bobby, to clear the air. Apparently there were some questions about your role here as an employee, so could you tell me and the public what your process is for the agenda?
I put things on the agenda as I'm given to them by either the supervisors, the attorneys, by the engineers, or the project manager. Friday afternoons, the agenda goes out in draft form. The agenda is finalized by Tuesday at 4 o'clock, where it is posted on the building, posted on Facebook, and posted on our website. So you have Friday, when you get it in draft form, up and through Tuesday at 4 o'clock. You make any changes, revisions, additions, whatever the case may be. And at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays, it is available on Facebook, on the website, and on the building.
Okay, great. And I saw an email come from the administration, I think it was Thursday or Friday of last week, saying that everything was ready.
Yes.
What day was that?
Everything was
Probably
ready.
Friday. The packets were ready as much as I had.
As much as you have.
Okay.
Very minimum. I think your email said very minimum.
Okay, so Bobby, you
As
get...
much information as I had from any of the supervisors, from the engineer, the project manager, was completed in the packet.
Okay.
What was also put in there was anything that's additional will be at the table. In addition to what you got in your packets, there were 2 sheets of paper that were left in this decreased spot today for the meeting. That was it, because she picked her packet up on Monday at like 4 o'clock or 4:15.
Okay, so for the most part, you had most of the documents ready except for 2 sheets?
2 sheets of paper.
Okay. Okay, so do you think... Okay, well, I'll let everybody else finish
So
on
I'll
the
make
addition.
the motion for that addition to the agenda again, but just for the record, action item number 1, I have no information on. Action item number 4, no information on. Action item number 8, 6, 7, and 8, no information on. Discussion item number 1, no information. 4, 5, 6, and 7, no information. 10, no information. New information.
I put the information in what is given to me, ma'am.
I understand, I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying I don't have any, that's why I would like to make a motion that if people do add to the agenda things that they want to have, that they give you the information so that the board packet can be made in an adequate amount of time to review it. Half the discussion, and what are we gonna have a discussion on? I don't have any information on this stuff. How are we gonna discuss it? I don't know whose job it was for action item number 1 for the holding tank agreement. I haven't got an email from a department in this community in over 9 days, other than Ms. Singer, who I went back and forth with.
Okay, so item 4 would be the Advent report for March. If you can
I made a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're not to the unfinished business yet. I'm sorry, we're still on item.
Executive session. I'm
very sorry.
No, she's on.
I'll let everybody take charge here, and just let me know when you want me to resume.
I would like to make a motion to add to the agenda that the supervisors get their board packets completed with whatever's on the draft agenda on Friday, that the information is in the packet on Friday when they get the draft agenda.
Okay, I will second that motion. Any deliberation?
I'll get my board packet till I get here.
This is just to add it to the agenda. Any deliberation on adding this item to the agenda? Okay, and Mr. Sweat said he's fine to do this. Roll call, please.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Prey?
Yes.
Okay.
It's item 13 now.
Yes. Okay, it's item 13, and I'll let Ms. Dupree repeat that when we get there, because I didn't write that down real quick, so she's going to repeat her motion when we get there. Okay, I don't really remember what we're at.
I'm sorry, can the public please, it's difficult to take minutes.
I'm sorry, I'm going to let Ms. Dupree, you can proceed.
You were on admin.
I thought you had another motion.
You said you had 2 more motions to make?
Oh, so the other motion that I would like to make, I was gonna wait till the bill pay part. I'd like to make a board motion that since Harshman and Sweat Law Firm both send their bills electronically, that it's CC to all of the supervisors at the same time as it's given to Ms. Singer, so that we don't all have to bother her to look out her printout version. So since they're sending electronically, I believe it could just be CC'd to us as a board.
I'm sorry, I honestly do not mean this to be combative in any way, but is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Oh, because this is
make a board
convoluted, similar to the one that Mr. Eskin gave last week.
to make a motion that Mr. Sweat and Harshman, Jamie Harshman and Sweat Law Firm send the bills electronically to all the supervisors at the same time. He's sending them to Roberta Singer.
Okay, motion by Ms. Dupree. Any seconds?
Just to clarify, this is to add this to the agenda?
Yes. Okay, I'll second to add this to the agenda. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Prey?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes. Okay, so we're jumping back. I know we were on unfinished business here. Let's go back to number 4. The Advent report for March on the computers is in our packets. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, moving on to unfinished business. We have vacancies to report, and we've had them on here for several months, and we'll continue to have those on there. Okay, now we're getting to D, action items. Okay. Item number 1, approve, deny holding tank agreement for 0 Carbox Road, Finleyville, PA 15332 between Union Township and Rauscher Farms LLC, conditioned upon Mr. Rauscher meeting all the requirements of the Union Township's holding tank ordinance. Before we discuss this, Sean, I think this was one of the items that Mr. Free didn't get any background on, is that correct? Is that one I heard?
Yes.
I know minimally about this, only that Bobby had asked me about it at one point in time, and I told her the agreements typically through Sweat's office, and beyond that, it's kind of with building and the code departments.
So, Mr. Sweat, this is obviously an agreement that ran through your office?
The township has a holding tank ordinance that has the requirements specified that a property owner must meet in order to qualify for a holding tank permit. And in this case, Mr. Rauscher was unable to develop an on-lot system that met the sewage requirements, and so his only remedy was to obtain a holding tank, and he applied for that permit. My office exchanged information with him, gave him a copy of our zoning, our holding tank ordinance, gave him a draft of the agreement that's a standard agreement, and indicated that if you're in agreement with the terms and conditions and your responsibilities, and you post the required escrow, which is $2,000, that he's entitled to a holding tank permit. So that's what was done. We've gone back and forth with Mr. Rauscher. I know that my office answered any questions that he had, gave him a draft copy of the agreement, let him know what the requirements were. He's indicated that he's okay with that and willing to comply. I believe he's here this evening just to confirm. And so this motion would be to approve entering into a holding tank agreement with the property owner, so long as he's able to meet all the requirements of the Union Township Holding Tank Ordinance. And I can represent to you that if he signs this agreement, he's met the requirements of the ordinance.
Alrighty, I'd like to make a motion to approve the holding tank agreement for 0 Cardox Road, Finleyville, PA 15332 between Union Township and Rauscher Farms LLC, conditioned upon Mr. Rauscher meeting all the requirements of the Union Township holding tank ordinance.
I'll second the motion to approve the holding tank for 0 Cardox Road.
Their motion to Eskin second. Is there any discussion?
I have a comment. We're getting several holding tank agreements. I think we need to get a file, calendar order, how long they're good for, the agreements, the names in each file. I hate to put more work on Bobby and Terry, but I think we need a file so we know when they're going to come up and expire and what we have we're responsible for.
And the pumping receipts.
And the pumping receipts, yes. I forgot that. I think we need to develop a file. Other than that, I agree.
Any other discussion?
I don't want to hold them up, but can I, Mr. Sweat, can I vote yes under the condition that I get some information? Sure. I don't want to hold them up, but I got...
You're voting yes based on our representation that they've complied with the township holding tank ordinance, so that would cover your vote. Good.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Dupree?
Yes.
Item 2, approve, deny donation to the El Rema Volunteer Fire Department. We received a fund drive from El Rema, and it's one that everyone has received, probably the residents as well. Does the board have an idea of what you'd like to donate?
What have we donated in the past? Do we know?
We just recently donated $1,000, is that correct? Yes. That was for this end of 20, end of 21, I believe.
Convoluted though.
I thought we donated more than that last year.
15.
I thought it was 10.
It was 10 at the end of the year.
I'd like to see what we gave them total last year. I didn't do any legwork on this myself.
I don't know if, Bobby, you recall. I know that based on the budget concerns we had, we scaled back what we were donating.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was $1,000 to each fire hall.
Okay, that was my memory, but who knows? I would like to suggest a $500 donation for this fund drive. That's just a number to throw out there. I'd like to make a motion to approve a $500 donation to El Rama Volunteer Fire Company.
I'll second that motion for $500 to El Rama Fire Department.
Their motion, Lawson second. Is there any discussion?
Will we be also donating to Finleyville Fire Department as well?
Just to clarify, this got on the agenda because they sent out the fund drive mailer, and Ms. Singer can comment, but I don't believe we received one from the other fire company. That's why this got on the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Dupree?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Item 3, approve, deny acceptance of the resignation of Miss Michelle Dupree, Supervisor Michelle Dupree, as Roadmaster. I'd like to make a motion to approve the acceptance of the resignation of Supervisor Dupree as Roadmaster.
I'll second the motion for the acceptance of resignation.
Okay, Dare motion, Lawson second. Is there any discussion? I wanted to confirm, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted to confirm with the office, this was given to you by Ms. Dupree?
Yes, at the last meeting, she handed it to us.
Okay, that was my only question.
I would like to say that I am sorry I had to resign from this position, but it is just met with a lot of resistance, and I'm ineffective in that position.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Ms. Dupree?
Yes. Oh, abstain, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, abstain. That's about me.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Item 4, approve, deny bonding, oops.
Did she name you too? Did you call everybody?
No. Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, Shane. I just got all confused for a minute. Okay.
Item 4, approve, deny bonding of project manager Terry Gladys in the amount of $500,000. I'd like to make a motion to approve bonding Terry for $500,000.
I'll second the motion to bond Terry Gladys for $500,000.
Okay, Dare motion, Lawson second. Any discussion?
I would like to say that is one of the items I got no information on, so I have no idea what we're bonding her for, or with who, or why. There's nothing in my packet to deal with that.
Yeah, there was no memo written up on this matter. It's, so just so you know, you didn't not get anything anybody else got. But Ms. Singer deals with this, so she might be able to speak a little better, but it's with the same bonding company that Mr. Lawson and Ms. Singer are bonded through. And just because I'll be a full-time employee and past project manager Jim Donahue was bonded for the same amount in the same way. And so just in case I ever had to deal with the finances in the event of Ms. Singer's absence, we thought that this would be a good idea.
So you're going to have some sort of treasury position possibly, or yes, or?
No, so not necessarily, but in my contract and the job description that was approved, it's in there that in the absence or like I'm back up, just in case, you know, a deposit would need to be made because God forbid the singer had to be out on emergency, I could just fill in that event, but no formal treasury, but just to keep things moving.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Ms. Dupree?
Yes.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Item 5, approved and I purchase of a refrigerator from the Bridgeville Appliance for shop in the amount of $608 to $650, delivering and removing of the broken refrigerators for the shop. Before we get started, Is this just a refrigerator broke and you put this on the agenda? I assumed that, I didn't see any
Everything that goes in,
correspondence.
even the refrigerator part's freezing up.
Okay.
And it's the same refrigerator that we purchased in October for the office.
Right, and again, I'm trying to make sure, I'm cognizant of all supervisors' concerns. Is this a number that didn't have correspondence?
Correct. I spoke with the gentleman over the phone who gave it to us for the same price that we had for the refrigerator for the office.
Okay, so, and as an abundance of caution, I think we probably are adding way too much to the agendas for some of the allegations that have been made by the board. We put everything on here, and a lot of these things don't require backup, it's just basic stuff.
This wasn't one of the items.
Okay, so just to be clarified for the board, that's what this is, it's for the shop refrigerator that broke.
There is information in the packet about it.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of the refrigerator. I'll second the motion to approve the refrigerator.
Lawson motioned, Eskin second, is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Ms. Dupree?
Yes.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Dove?
Yes. Item 6, approved and I purchased pipe strains catch basins for repair at Davidson Avenue in the amount of $6,750. It's a purchase order 2022-001.
I will comment on this. Working with the road crew, we've gone down to Davidson Road. We've had a complaint of water going into forgive me, I don't remember the name of the beauty shop down there. On Davidson Road, we had a complaint of water running through the parking lot and going into the building. We took our jetter machine down there and we tried to go from the top down. We hit a massive plug. We tried to go from the bottom up. We hit a plug. So what we are planning on doing, I do believe the guys are going to start this next week. I think they're pretty much done with logs on the road. What we're going to do is the catch basin that's closest to the park, we're going to saw cut across the road. We're going to get down the opposite side of the road with a new pipe. When we get past where the beauty shop is, we're going to saw cut back across the road. We're going to put 2 catch basins on the opposite side of the road. The reason that we are going on the other side of the road is there is a concrete apron in front of that beauty shop, in front of all those houses, with all the utilities in it. It would be very, very costly to jackhammer that up and try to go around all the utilities in there. It's cheaper for us to go across the street, down the road, and back over to alleviate we're hoping it's going to alleviate the water coming down the road. And that is why this is on the agenda. There's nothing in the packet. If anybody wants to blame anybody, I talked to the road crew. We know what's going on. Yeah, there was a purchase order in there for stone. We did order the stone. The pipe's already, I do believe the pipe's here already. We're getting ready to go. Road crew's going progress. We're getting stuff done.
Okay, does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve purchase order 2020.
David made
Oh, he did already? Okay, I'm sorry.
David made the motion.
No, I just talked.
No, he just discussed.
Yeah, go ahead. I make a motion to approve purchase order 2022-001 for Davidson Road, $6,750. I'll second the motion for Davidson Road.
Okay, Lawson motion, Deskin second. Is there any discussion?
So you say the pipe's already here?
We've talked to Albert, and it was being delivered to the playground. I don't exactly know if it was delivered. I have not talked to Albert this week.
Guess we better approve it then. We've already done it.
POs are written.
Okay, any other discussion?
I think on road work like that, when we have a problem, it's good to have the purchase order, because there's no reason they can't buy this stuff. Is it here?
It's in the budget.
Yeah.
As long as they meet the advertising requirements.
I just question it being on the agenda to approve when it's already here.
Just for transparency.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Freed?
Yes.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Item 7, approve deny purchase of 2B stone, 45-ton estimate for Davidson Avenue, project in the amount of $1,080, $24 per ton. It's PO 2022-002.
I'll make a motion to approve the QB stone for Davidson Avenue of the amount of $1,080 at $24 a ton, PO number 2022-002.
I will second that motion.
Okay, Eskin motion, Lawson second. Any discussion? Alrighty, roll call please.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Freed?
Yes.
Item 8, approve deny J5 construction payment application number 4 for Pleasant View Road Slide Repair Project. This payment application amounts to $16,377, which is a release of retainage held from previous payment requests. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the J5 construction payment application number 4 for Pleasant View in the amount of $16,377.
I'll second the motion to approve the J5 construction payment, $16,377.
Okay, Dare motion, Lawson second. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Sean, you've gone over this?
Yes.
Yeah. Have they made the couple repairs that Mr. Harshman was going to have them do per my request?
Yeah, there was the addition to the bituminous wedge curve to help in that area.
That's good.
I got everything I needed from them early last week. Reviewed it. There was a few things missing. Got everything from them on Friday. Did the review Friday afternoon when I got back to the office. Sent an email out to all of you. So if that didn't come through, I think there's a problem that we need to look into. But yeah, so you should have all the information. We have the maintenance bond, everything PennDOT requires for them to finish their liquid fuels audit of the project. So
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? Roll call please.
Mr. Freed?
Yes.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Item 9, approve deny appointing Janet Hollingsworth to the CERM's representative position for Union Township.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Janet Hollingsworth to CRM's representative position in Union Township.
I got a question before I second it. And the question is, are we appointing her as just a
Liaison.
yes, or is she being appointed as a voting member?
I was making a motion to appoint her as a voting member, and I know there's been some discussion about that in the board of directors or whatever, but we have other board members and other citizens on boards of other things that is a board of directors. We have 3 representatives of Peters Creek Sanitary that sit on the board of directors. We have people that sit on WESA on the board of directors, and we have people that sit on Washington County Storage Council on the board of directors. And I didn't know why Ms. Hollingsworth, being a voting member to represent Union Township on CRMs, was such a problem, considering that we do have board members on other boards, on other authorities, other services. So it was to be she was willing and put a letter of interest in to be a voting member on CRMs, as the other 9 communities have voting members on CRMs.
They don't like her.
Gary, I have a question. I know that the 2 authority boards that our township have interest in, which is Peters Creek Sanitary Authority and West Elizabeth Sanitary Authority are two different, there's two different statutory requirements.
They're municipal corporations.
Yes, they're municipal corporations.
This is not a municipal corporation.
Okay, and can you answer to the representative position that meets once a year to the Washington, to the gentleman in the back, I can't think of your name, sir, but the Washington County,
Local co-op,
yes.
sanitation council.
Yeah. Can you speak to that? Is there any difference between the board at Serums?
I'm not sure the exact makeup of the local sanitation
Yes.
co-op, but it's done under the auspices of the DEP, I believe. The problem with the Serums is it's a corporation, and I maintain my recommendation that we should not be appointing a member to the board of directors because of the potential liability that's there. You can appoint a representative as a liaison to sit in on the meetings, to report back to this board, but to appoint them to be a member of the board of directors exposes this township to potential liability because that's your agent.
I know we're completely out of order, but everyone started with free discussion, so I'm going to feel free to discuss as well. But now that the relationship with Serums has changed in the way that they are now requesting a fee for service from Union Township taxpayers in the amount of $30,000 a year, and we're figuring that out. Right now, we're in the process of working that out. Terry Gladys is on that project. Does that change the relationship at all, or your recommendation to not have a voting member of a board when we have a service payment there?
No, it doesn't change my recommendation.
Okay, so you're still saying you would advise that?
Well, I mean, there's personal liability for for withholding, 941, failure to fund pensions, and unless you're there day in and day out and you're seeing the books and you know what's going on, you're really out on the limb when you serve as a board member and meet for an hour or two a month. I have personal experience. The IRS will come after you if malicious things occur.
Personally, she can be held responsible.
And that would extend to the township since she would be an appointee of the township. So she doesn't need to be, or our representative doesn't need to be a member of the board of directors to adequately represent the township at a Serums meeting.
Okay.
I also would, if I may, just reiterate that through my conversations with Serums on this matter, they absolutely were comfortable having a liaison as a non-voting person appointed by the township to sit in there. And there's 11, I believe, at-large voting members. So if Ms. Janet Hollingsworth or anybody in the township or otherwise is interested in serving on the board and being a voting member, they're more than welcome to put their letter of interest into Serums directly.
As an at-large member.
As an at-large member, that's correct. And they, at-large members vote too, so.
So I guess I want to amend my motion to approve or deny appointing Janet Hollingsworth as a non-voting representative position of Union Township.
I'll second that motion for a non-voting board member.
Representative,
Yes,
non-board member representative.
May I ask a question? What is Serums? I don't know what that is.
Southeast Regional.
Yes.
Okay.
Gary, are you okay with that?
Yeah. Non-voting, not a member of the board of directors.
I'm sorry. Ms. Dupree motioned, Mr. Eskin seconded. Any discussion? I have discussion. Now that we're completely changing this agenda item, I haven't thought this through because I was focusing on the agenda item that was put on here. Talking about a voting member, a non-voting member, so does Serums, and I'm directing this to you, Terry, does Serums do we have any paperwork anywhere that states that they have non-voting members on their board?
No, they absolutely do not have non-voting members on their board at this time. However, in speaking with them, because they said it's not officially a public meeting, but because we would have a seat anyway, if we appointed someone, they were comfortable with an individual just going and sitting in and bringing and reporting back.
Did they put that in writing?
No, that was good conversation, but this can be contingent upon we put that in writing, and I can contact students this week.
My personal opinion is I wouldn't want to vote on anything that I don't know. I don't know enough about this. I don't have any information that this is an actual statement coming from CERMS. This sounds like they've created a new position somehow for Union Township. And you're stating that...
No, you said that it's a public meeting, so anybody can go. So we're really avoiding...
It's not officially a public meeting because they're not a public entity, but they said that they don't restrict people from coming in. So, and they think they'd be comfortable with us having a seat. So it is creating a seat at their board table.
Someone attending it and reporting back to us. Basically, it would be somebody just attending their meeting and reporting back to us.
That's correct.
But my question is, can someone go in without having Union Township boards making motions to allow them to go in and sit there? Can anybody attend that meeting publicly?
No.
From my conversations, and this is only my understanding that I'm reporting back here, but it's not a public meeting because they're not a public entity, so there's no law saying the door has to be open as it is here. However, in candid conversation, they stated that they don't stop anybody from coming in. That's just their rule, and so they would be, and Mr. Doug Pasca stated that he believes that their board would be fine with having a liaison in this fashion, but this is the first, this is happening, and it's not an established thing that other municipalities do or other agencies, as reported to me from Mr. Doug Pasco, and we had that conversation.
Okay, thank you. And then my only last question before I make my decision is, Attorney Sweat, oh, I'm sorry, did someone have a public comment? No? Okay, Attorney Sweat, is there liability just even on a non-voting member that we put on the CERMS board?
No.
None, okay.
And you might want to just quote, subject to acceptance of that person by CERMS. We're sending them as a non-voting member. They've given you a verbal that they would accept that.
Correct.
You're asking for something in writing. That's how you could do it.
You should send them a letter of explanation then.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table from Ms. Dupree, seconded by Mr. Eskin. Any more discussion? Alrighty, roll call, please.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Ms. Dupree?
Yes.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Deb?
Abstained due to the fact that I don't have enough documented information.
Mr. Lawson?
No.
Item 10, discuss CDL license for new road crew member.
If I may give a little background information on this, this is in, this was in last month's packet. It was on the agenda, but it never got, we never discussed it thoroughly. So this was in your last meetings packet, but the laws as of this past February changed where in order to get a CDL license, you have to take some in-class, you have to take classes. And the board needs to, Mr. Server had expressed that he absolutely has interest in getting his CDL. There are some circumstances where he cannot drive some of our, one of our trucks if he does not have his CDL. But he expressed that he is not in the, financial position to put out the money for this. The entire thing, all said and done, which covers all of the permit costs, the testing, the in-road time, everything like that, or in-truck time on the road, is estimated to be about $5,000 at a local entity. So you can take it through like CCAC, things like that. He said he was willing to do it on his own time during the nights and weekends, but it's up to the board because it's a discuss and then an approve for the township to potentially pay for him getting his CDL to drive a police car.
Well, I bumped into Frank, opened up the subject. He told me verbally he would be willing to go in the evening. If he went during the day, he wanted paid during the day, whereas in the evening he would not require to be paid. I think we should, if we decide for him to go in the evening, we should get an okay from the through Gary, through the union, that it's okay to send them in the evening without pay. You could get him to sign something for stay here for a couple of years, but you'll never get him to pay anything. I think he's a good guy. $5 is a lot of money. But if something would happen to Ron or Albert, we're down to one guy to drive a bigger truck or tow the sewer jetter around. I think he needs to get the CDL, but I think Mr. Sweat should go through the union to see if it is legal for him to go to evening classes not getting paid.
The only thing I would say, Rick, if they're going to set precedents on every guy coming up, it's going to get the exact same.
I agree, but from what I researched, there's no getting around CDLs now.
There's not. I agree with you. No.
I don't know what else to say. We have 3 vehicles, or 2 trucks that are required for CDL, and anytime they hook that sewer machine up and tow it, that'll be the 3rd one. And probably technically, if they tow those mowers around, they could get overweight there. I think we're in a catch-22. He's got to have a CDL, I guess. In hindsight, maybe I think he was a good pick. I was going to say maybe we should have picked somebody with a CDL, but I think he was a very good pick myself.
Just to also add to that, we only have currently right now 1 Class A CDL driver. Albert is a Class B CDL. Ron is the only one with a Class A CDL. So if one takes a vacation or something, we can't haul the sewer jetter unless I come do it. I do have a Class A CDL, so I would have to come and haul the sewer jetter because nobody can. As of right now, the only one that can tow our sewer jetter is Ron.
The union requirement was you had to have a Class A.
No, it's just Class B CDL. Yep. Class B CDL allows them to drive any truck that we have and not haul a trailer over 10,000 pounds. If the jetter was under 10,000, but it's 13,000, they can haul it, but it's not. So,
the thing I suggested is if the board wants to ask him if he wants to pay, contribute something to it so that he takes it in earnest. But Terry, that $5,000 is whether you pass or not, correct?
I assume so. That's usually how classes go.
From what I understand with these CDL classes, nobody ever fails them. Unless you wreck.
Can I interject for a minute? Kevin Hallam, 5058 Dawn Street. On that testing, you might want to look into how many hours she has to put in, or it's quite high now. They adjusted all that.
I do believe it's 40 hours. Yeah, I do believe it's 40 hours of classroom and 40 hours of road time.
Correct.
And that $5,000, that's pass or fail. And if you do fail it, you go all over.
You fail it.
Just for insight for ends, maybe pay the $5,000 if passing it. I mean, just a suggestion.
You have enough township's addressing this, Gary?
It's the first I've heard.
I also just want to note that, for just general knowledge, Frank, Mr. Server was, I'm sorry, is there a public comment? I was in the process, he was in the process of getting his permit, and then in February the rule changed. So he sent in his stuff, he was going to get his permit, it was going to be good to go, and then the rule changed. So, this is something that that wasn't anticipated by Frank himself or the township, and I just wanted to put that out there.
My grandson never quite.
He's still on probation too, right?
No. He's off for 60 days.
Is there any other discussion on this item? Okay, I have a suggestion. Has anybody, this is a requirement of the union, and from the bargaining contract, is that correct? Does anybody have a current copy of the contract?
What Ms. Singer and I read was, from what we understood, do you want to? No. Okay. They just signed something that says they follow all CDL and road rules. So to me that says, and I'm not a lawyer, but to me that says that if something needs CDL, he can't drive it. But it doesn't say that he has to have a CDL.
I thought the union contract stated you have to have a CDL.
So my suggestion is, I thought that as well. I was wondering if we couldn't have either Terry or Attorney Sweat reach out to the bargaining attorney and at the union to see if it was possible that they would possibly sharing the cost.
We'll pay it.
Or
Yeah.
pay it. I think it's a lot of money. I want to support Mr. Server. I know he's an excellent road crew member, and we're here to support and encourage growth and continued education for any employee. That's what we're here to do, support them. So if they would be interested, I would like to talk about that first, or to see what can we do in the alternate, because, you know, budgeting is severe this year. And some of the lawsuits that we thought may have been solved, now, they're not solved yet. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned about those costs on some of these lawsuits that the public will be learning about in detail soon. So I'm concerned about the $5,000. That's my opinion.
I think it's a good idea. I think we're going to table this until Mr. Swift
Well,
gets it.
this is an item that would require effects bargaining, because obviously the CBA did not anticipate this change, so it's not written into the agreement. So in order to deal with the issue, we need effects bargaining, which would basically be a memorandum of understanding once the township and the union reach an agreement to be attached to the existing CBA.
Is there a relative cost to doing that? Like,
Just our time in negotiating it with the
I mean,
union.
is there like a relative ballpark price of doing that?
I would think we would know through a few conversations with the union attorney what their position is.
Then that would help us in future hires?
Well, under this CBA, because it would be amending the CBA with the effects bargaining.
I just don't want to spend a few $1,000 and not spend a few $1,000s, that's all. I was just trying to ballpark what the cost of that effective bargaining would be, roughly.
Less than 1,000, more like 500 tops.
But this doesn't affect one employee, this affects
the whole bargaining unit.
Yeah, from here on out, the next 20 years. So it's cheap money.
It's going into the bargaining
Yes.
agreement, and that would become an item for bargaining with the new
Absolutely.
Since it wasn't something that was already initially on the agenda and it's not de minimis, I was just concerned with spending too much money on something that we didn't put on the agenda.
There is a result of the discussion, I'm understanding that item 11 is on the agenda. Is there an ability to modify that agenda item if a supervisor wanted to make a vote to have you go into effects bargaining with the union to discuss Frank Server and the CDL license through CCAC evening classes?
I think it would be more appropriate to table that item.
Okay.
With the understanding that we need to talk to the union to see what their position is.
That's my point.
And bring it back to you.
Can we make a motion to approve sending you to effects bargaining to discuss Frank Server's situation with the union? Or is that too much of a bend on that?
I would table it.
Okay.
I understand the sentiment of and this is a personnel issue that could have been discussed in the executive session, I guess. So you could have directed me to go and find out what the union's position is, and that's what I hear happening here.
Okay. Anybody else have discussions on CDL license? Okay, moving to item 11, approve, deny sending Frank Server for his CDL license through CCAC evening classes.
I'll make a motion to table the sending Frank Server for a CDL license through CCAC until further notice.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, Supervisor Eskin moved. Supervisor Lawson seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Item 12, approve, deny hiring of Colin Chung as the 2022 summer intern at $15 per hour for approximately 300 hours. As we discussed in our last meeting, Terry has interviewed Mr. Chung, and he is a student at Carnegie Mellon University. And Terry's extremely excited about this individual coming here to help us finish our GIS project, our mapping project that we started a year ago, and other duties. And the board has discussed this in length at several meetings. So So I'd like to make a motion to approve hiring Colin Chung as a summer intern at $15 per hour for approximately 300 hours.
I'll second the motion to hire Colin Chung as a 2022 summer intern at $15 an hour.
Okay, Mayor motioned, Eskin second. Is there any deliberation?
So we're just hiring, no interview, just based off his resume?
I interviewed him extensively over the phone and in person. And it was part of my contract to be in charge of.
Yeah, I could see that. You just didn't really put much of a synopsis. I could see that you did. I was just clarifying whether we were or weren't.
Yeah, no, I interviewed him in person and on the phone.
Terry, is there anything else while the board's deciding or deliberating, anything else you want to add of note of interest of Mr. Chung's resume and his expertise in coming here?
Yeah, I was really impressed with his resume and speaking with him. He is a graduate student at Carnegie Mellon, actually. He is in the same position that I was in right in between his 2 years when I came here. He has taken a GIS class just as I had, and so his GIS experience, but his master's degree is in something public policy related, just as mine was. So he's, similar experience, similar pay, and the goal is that he will be finishing up the first half of the summer, we'll be finishing up our MS4 requirements with the outfall screening, so that'll save us a lot of money from me doing it at my new pay or Harshman Engineering firm, and then he will continue to build and maintain our database for the rest of the summer, and hopefully he'll be reporting to you at the end of the summer. So,
okay, excellent. Any other discussions from the board? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yeah.
Alrighty, moving on to discussion items. Oops, I'm so sorry. Did I skip? Oh, that's right. Okay, I'll let Supervisor Dupree take over from here.
I would like to make a motion to approve or deny Harshman, CE Group, and Sweat Law.
No, wait, 13 was the packets, Michelle.
13 was the packets.
Okay.
That packet's got
13 was add to the agenda. So I'd like to make a motion to approve or deny the supervisors getting their board packet information with the draft agenda no later than Friday with their draft agenda.
Would any supervisor like to move? Information.
I think we keep it the way it has been.
So just for the record, you guys know I didn't even get provided an agenda for this meeting until I walked in this building today, right? You know that. You do?
I didn't get one. You could.
So you're happy with that? You do everything you guys want to get an agenda?
I don't care. So I really would like to discuss this. But the Roberts Rule doesn't allow us to do this, and since this was just added, it would be great if this was added as a discussion item, because I think we need healthy debate here on this.
You started discussion when they all started talking about it. So, but if I say
I don't know.
Record, it's a problem. If it fails for action, it failed for action. But then don't talk about it.
Excuse me, I know everyone else is talking
Excuse me,
in the meeting. I was able to come down this afternoon and obtain a agenda.
So, okay.
Well, good for you.
Please, the motion failed. I would be absolutely all in to discuss this in a future date. If we could add this to the agenda as a discussion item, so the board has healthy process to debate and talk about how everyone feels. I'm definitely, and in particular, I'd like to know how the staff feels our staffing issues, and if we need to do something further
We're not talking
staffing-wise,
about it, we're not discussing it.
I would like,
We're
that's,
discussing it. We're
that,
discussing it.
if we can put that on as an agenda item.
We can discuss it, but it'll have Michelle wants to discuss it. Rules of order.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I guess number 14. I'd like to put on approve or deny Harshman CE Group and Sweat Law Firm to CC all supervisors their bill at the same time as they send them to Roberta Singer.
Okay, I will second that motion. Okay, Supervisor Dupree motion, Gare second. Is there any deliberation?
What date is are these professionals emailing them?
The deadline that Bobby gives us, I think the Friday before the scheduled meeting, correct?
I'm sorry, for
For our bills. You want those in hand, I think the
it has to
Friday
be
before
sooner
our...
than Friday before the end
Thursday
of
or
the day,
Friday?
because I've got to have bill pay lists and packets ready prior to.
When do you normally get our bill?
I just got it today.
Well, that's for next meeting. You got 2 weeks in advance.
Yes.
Um,
Can I say something? I do not get Harshman's bill electronically.
Good point there, Barbie. How can you think it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is Harshman's bill. This does not come electronically. This gets handed to me by the engineer to get paid. I do not get this electronically, and I'm not going to stand and copy all of this, because there's maps, there's correspondence, there's drawings, to send it out to everybody. This is Harshman's bill. It does not come electronically.
I'm so sorry, I didn't. I
knew that. Good point, Bobby.
we can send ours. We can send ours.
You have no hiccup?
I rescind my second on that.
I will say that I did a right to know from Mr. Hirschman's bill, and I got it electronically through Hirschman. Yes. So he can send, he might not be able to send the maps and so forth, but he can send his bill electronic. He has sent them to me electronic.
Won't be complete though.
Don't get twisted.
We are still in discussion. I think this is the danger of not discussing things before, things that are in depth, that
It needs to be
before we
discussed.
Like item number 1,
I want to rescind my
4,
second.
5, and 7, and 9.
I'd like to rescind my
Which you
second.
voted yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, and yes.
So, Gary, where are we at? I rescinded my second, so if there's anybody else that...
We're still looking for a second then.
Of course.
It needs to be put down in discussion.
I don't know why you have to discuss pushing CC on a bill that he sends to her that we can't just all get it at the same time. You can still come look at it. It has to go in as a discussion item.
Anybody want to move on
So that
second?
we can all bother Bobby when we want to see the bill? If she's not tied up enough now?
Okay, then the motion died.
Motion died.
Can we put this on the agenda as a discussion item for the next meeting? So we can find out how the bills come, how much would it cost to have Harshman do all that? We'll have to have discussion at the
He
next meeting.
prints them on a computer. He's not handwriting them, scanning them.
Michelle, you want to speak up, please?
I said he is not handwriting the bills, he's doing them on a computer.
Well.
So you just send them. At the same time, you send them to Bobby, and then I don't have to come down here, and you guys don't have to come down here. I'm talking about Mr. Sweat.
I don't get an email.
Bobby, I wasn't talking to you. You don't need to attack me.
I'm just telling, I told you I
You don't need to
get
attack
the email.
me. I'm sure that Harshman prints those on a computer and can send them electronically. The bills part, Mr. Sweat's already said that he can, but we're gonna talk it to death. Although, I got no information on 50% of this agenda tonight.
So,
Supervisor Dupree, can we discuss it during remarks by supervisors and staff? Would that be acceptable?
Sure. No, but it cancels the motion, so it doesn't matter. I guess we're putting it on the next agenda.
if somebody-
So we can discuss it tonight instead of a couple of weeks.
Ms. Dupree, if you wanted to remodify your motion to only include Sweatsville, since we learn now there may be complications with Harshansville, we just want to have the facts before we vote, that's certainly available if you'd like to do that.
Okay, I would like to modify my motion to approve or deny Sweat Law Firm CCing all supervisors on their bill when they send it at the same time as Roberta Singer gets email.
I will second that motion. Supervisor Dupree motion, Supervisor Dare second. Is there any discussion?
And you'll be sending that Friday before the meeting.
Well, no, he said he sent it for 2 weeks from now. He's already sent it.
Today was unusual, because I'm leaving for a while, so the bill got out today.
So it would be to Friday before the meeting.
Whenever you send them.
At the latest, it would be the Friday before the meeting.
I'm gonna say, I think Harsham's bill was back for February stuff, the one I looked at this week, so it's been sitting around for a while, I guess.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, roll call please, Bonnie?
Mr. Eskin?
No.
Mr. Dupree?
Yes.
Mr. Traps?
Yes.
Ms. Stowe?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Okay, am I remiss in moving to item E? Do we have any more additional agenda items? Okay. Item number 1 under E, discussion items. Discuss water flow complaint at bridge underpass on Route 88 and management of issues. So we had a complaint from a resident on the water, the bridges that we put in could have possibly restricted the water flow and created a quicker water flow under Route 88 bridge, and Terry was going to look into that.
Yeah, a citizen was concerned about some erosion that was occurring under a bridge, but this sort of opened up, and this is the second part of this discussion item, a greater discussion about how these things should be handled. So in the interest of these meetings being very lengthy, and me coming into a new full-time position, I wanted the board's opinion on if you all think it would be appropriate for example, if we receive complaints that I can go investigate, but I want to make sure that you are all aware. Could I go and do that within my administrative and my project duty, but then I'll do, perhaps, I'm proposing a project manager report, so I let you know what I looked at the past 2 weeks or the past month, and what I've been working on, so you all stay in the loop, but we don't have to discuss everything in detail at meetings. And then obviously, this is not me spending any money, just to clarify, this is just, hey, as project manager, I'm gonna go check this out because we got a complaint. To keep you all in the loop, I'll write up a project manager.
Absolutely, I'm all for it.
That's great, but where's the complaint for this one? So the item is to discuss a complaint, so where's the, do you have the complaint?
I did not receive the complaint, this was a
Does anyone have the complaint?
Yeah, I sent it to Bobby. It was a verbal complaint.
Oh, it's a verbal complaint.
So on our website, it does say that we
Discussion
are...
item about a complaint and didn't give anything about it.
No, I'm sorry. May I please? I don't want hostility. May I please not have the hostility directed at me? It's very...
Complaints had to be a form.
I have to take a break, excuse me.
So...
Where is the bridge at?
I don't really have any of this information on this stuff, I guess I'm leaving to it.
Which bridge are we talking about?
I'm sorry, I'm frazzled at the moment.
Well, give me something to discuss. Give me something to discuss. What complaint, what bridge, where on 88? We're discussing, talking about sending her out on stuff that has nothing to do with what's on the agenda item. What bridge? What complaint? What person?
Terry,
Where
what
at?
bridge are we talking about?
I apologize, I did not take this complaint, although it is proper protocol according to our website. If you would like to call, there is a line on our complaint form that says recorded by, and it is fine to be recorded by a supervisor or a staff member. I believe in this event, it was recorded by a supervisor. I wanted to bring this up because I have not looked into this at all. because I didn't know if I needed to bring it to the board to send me out to do so.
So last week it had on the agenda who requested certain things on the agenda. Who requested this to be on the agenda?
I did because I didn't know what to do with a complaint that I had heard was received. So I didn't know what my protocol was, and I wanted to come to the board to ask if I was allowed to go and investigate these things, and then tell you about it later, or if I had to bring it up ahead of time on the agenda.
If it's the bridge on 88 by Giant Eagle, I do believe they tried to replace that years ago, but is that Union Township or Philly?
That's not, I'm sure that's not the same question, because this one, that's actually Finley Village. That's the one we provided a letter of support to, for PennDOT emergency funding, and the estimated date on that's 2028, by the way.
Are you serious? 2028? No.
Did you guys come across the address?
No, I did not. To be honest, as I explained, I did not look into this complaint thoroughly, because part of it, as part of this discussion item, is I would like to know if these are things that I can go investigate, or if I have to put it on the agenda first. So if the decisions I have to put it on the agenda first, this is me putting it on the agenda, and I'll go investigate.
So this was just a discount.
The gentleman who complained stopped at my place of business and told me about this, and he had complained in the past, no, and I shouldn't say complaint, he has a concern. I thought I gave the address to either Bobby or you, Terry, and I'm sorry if I didn't. I didn't know it until I drove past it, and as I called the office to put this on the agenda, I verbally put the address of this person up. The address doesn't matter. It's when you pass Jack Street Bridge going north on Route 88, you will come to the part of the creek that runs under Route 88. Our engineers apparently were out there a year or so ago. Jessica Steiner was, with maybe possibly Rick Lawson. Is this
If it's the same complaint, yes, I was out there.
So the address I don't have, but that gentleman right there is noticing, and you can see where there's tarps in the creek bed. There's erosion happening right there under the Route 88 pass. So, Rick, do you recall anything with Jessica Steiner on this one?
Yes, if it's the same place, I met the gentleman out there and Jessica. It's in the state right away. The creek runs just about parallel with 88, then makes a hard 90-degree turn. All the riprap's gone. He has put some fabric there, but in my opinion, it's in the state right away, and I believe from memory that's what Jessica said, we really can't touch it. I mean, I think Terry should go down and look at it, and in fact, if it's in the state right away, then we should call the state.
And so I guess that, I apologize, Ms. Chairwoman, that was sort of, this complaint came to my attention. I didn't know how to move on it, so I put it on the agenda. But I'm asking for future, if I may have the administrative right-of-way to do these things, or not to spend money, but to contact affiliated parties to investigate the problems and then produce a report for you all.
We should give her a freedom.
Written complaints, are you talking about going out on written complaints, investigating written complaints, or just like when someone comes up to you, or like?
So, our policy is that we are, on our complaint form, there's a line that says reported by. So if citizen can come in and physically fill out a form, they can mail us a form that they printed off from the website, or it says on our website, they may call the office and it can be reported by someone else. You just have to mark it.
It just didn't seem to be done in this instance, and it's that the agenda is something different than what you're saying. Like the agenda is supposedly about a complaint on a bridge on 88.
Right, the bridge underpass and management.
What we're discussing is you going out and complaining and checking them out.
That was the management.
So if I'm hearing, Rick, if your recollection of this issue is what you believe, that you remember Ms. Steiner looking at, and visually you can see that this creek bed definitely goes under Route 88. Our board in 2017 and 2019 replaced the two bridges, Jack and Jason Street. So it all makes sense that that water flow might be moving quicker and causing that erosion. But then there's also the problem is that there's a sharp turn on 88 on PennDOT's right away.
Yes, and the riprap's gone, it's just eating away his real estate. I think Terry should go, I'll go down with her, and if she determines and says it's on a right of way, we call the district and get them to address it.
So is this something the board would consider having representative from Sheriff's Office? Maybe we can share in even going out there to look at that, maybe have a meeting? Can we bring State Representative Mr. Garrett on that?
Yeah. Come bring us food, we'll go down the creek.
Do you think you could schedule that, Terry, if the board's okay with that, to try to start solving it? Okay, does the board go, we can let Terry go with this? And any other future complaints that are not coming through, through code enforcement? Questions like this? Okay. Item number 2, discussing sending right-to-know request responses via certified mail and read receipts. So the board, we discussed this at the last meeting, and we asked to put this on the agenda because of a few residents saying they're not getting their right-to-knows. So to ensure that we know they're being delivered and sent as we're hearing they are, we could possibly start a process of having them sent certified and putting read receipts on any emails. In fact, my recommendation is to send them conjunctively.
I think it's a good idea. We put that on the agenda for next meeting, and we can't vote on it here.
I don't think it's a spending a minor amount of money. I don't know if that has to have board action to have, do we have to have board action?
Matt already instructed Sarah in her capacity as right to know to do it that way, so that we have proof of communication.
So we're going to now send them via email and electronic certified mail. Excuse me, email, electronic, and certified mail doubly.
Right.
Okay.
Excuse me, what about picking them up?
I would just mail them.
Could you please state your name and
Denise Puglisi, 4057 Heath Road, Finleyville, PA 15332. What about just picking them up here if it's your right to know or whatever? Because this isn't very far for most people. Someone could just sign for them here instead of spending the money on a certified letter.
I think there's complications in that myself. I think that if someone can't show up on the day that they state, I think that there's going to be back and forth where Bobby is defending when she was somewhere and if someone wasn't at the door. I think
Is there a public comment elsewhere in the building?
Yeah. I guess.
Any other board members have thoughts on that?
I think it would be very good.
I think that based on the criticisms that the right-to-know officers have taken on when it was sent out, I think there's no other way other than to doubly send them. It's an expense.
You gotta do it.
To create no gray area. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. Anybody else have a comment? Please speak freely. Nobody? Item 3, discuss Veterans Park landscaping.
This was in your packets. So we received part of the plans, which I highlighted and put a little screenshot in your packets from our engineers, include some trees up on, there's been recently a map that was updated and sent to me since I printed this one out, so I apologize. The only change is that the trees are not on the hillside as it looks in these maps, but actually on top of the ridge, because trees die when planted on hills, generally. So basically the plan is just to plant some more trees at Veterans Park in order to appease the landowner that was super generous in giving us the easement to do that park construction. So this is just the addition of some trees. And then Sean went out and met, because I had class yesterday or this morning with
Yeah, so I met with Michael Plavchak, the owner of Plavchak Construction, to discuss a potential change order and get some pricing to remove trees that have the potential to fall on the park that we're building. So if they could fall on the fencing, if they could fall on the dugouts, the batting cages, that type of stuff. So basically clearing that hillside a decent amount when you're winding down the hill into the park. On that first part, Terry, what would the plan be for those trees if the board's amenable to that? Would that be something that get purchased through the road crew and they'd be installing them, or is this something?
Yeah, so the road crew could certainly do this, but through candid conversation, I guess the last time we planted trees, the nursery that we bought them from and planted them as well, and so that would be included in the cost. And if the board would like to consider planting the additional trees and or taking the trees down, that could be a hazard. We will get the change order prices and quotes for the installation and taking down of the trees. If that's what you're interested in, that can go on the next agenda as an approved deny with actual prices.
Terry, this sketch is provided here. This looks like 16 circles. Is that 16 trees?
Correct. I think that the new updated one that again came out after the board packet, or at least my portion of the board package was distributed, it's a slightly different number.
I think the budget of $1,500 for 16 trees is too light. I love the road crew to do it all, but this is already a park and a hillside that's planted. I think we should get a change order from Pavlicek so that the seeding is done. They're not going to dig these by hand, 16. They're going to take a machine up there and dig them. The excess dirt's taken away. I think for 16 trees we should get a change or an estimate from Pavlicek because he's on site. And as far as the trees that could fall on the dugout or the fence, I say let get that estimate from Pavlicek and change order that too.
And I just would like to say in addition to that, there is a little bit of a balancing game that has to happen, which I'm sure board members know about who do plants. With younger trees are more likely to live and older trees are more likely to die when you plant them, so we kind of also have to decide, we can make a big investment in a large tree, but especially where it's being planted, we have to.
I had Sugar Run Nursery 2 years ago plant trees for me. He charged me $110 planted. He guaranteed them for a year. I think Pavlicek should do this because the hillside is done and seeded. We get our road crew there, they're not going to clean up like we're going to expect Pavlicek. I really think the contractor should do this because it's on a finished hillside. And I think we should do it for the neighbor. He was good enough to give us this. That's my opinion. You're going to request it?
Sure, I'll take care of that. And just to be clear, you have a plan that got an updated plan is available. I can print it out for all of you now, but it's 11 pine trees in the back and then 10 of those, I think it's cedars in the front rather than the 16 you're talking about. So
but whatever it is, the hillside is on finished grade, or it's supposed to be. It's blanketed, seeded, and it should be coming in green. I think Pavlicek, the contractor, should be doing this instead of putting another contractor or the road crew down there.
Sure.
That's my thought.
Is this a change order in addition to what we're spending?
Yes.
The trees would be a change order, yes, for the property owner.
I'm not in favor of this. Due to the ongoing litigation that the taxpayers are paying for, that they're going to hear in detail about in the next few months, I'm highly concerned about spending any dimes over what we budgeted based on the ongoing litigation. That's I just putting that out there.
I think the property owner is asking us to do this.
And it's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame because there's a lot of things that people are going to be denied this year and several years ahead of time because of the expense of some of this litigation. And the people will decide once they hear all the facts on if it was a good use of money, of taxpayer money. Any more conversation on that?
I would like to see us at least get a price on it, so what we're talking about. 2 separate prices, trees to be planted and the trees Be cut down. Is that a problem? Could we do that?
I think it's fine.
Do you have a size tree? Do you have a size?
Not yet, this was just a discussion, but we can price out different sizes as well.
Anyone that needs a machine, you're talking $4,500 for the trees.
Any more discussion on item number 3? Item 4, discuss Cardox Road trail cameras. So at the residents' request on Cardox Road, we installed trail cams for speeding. The complaints of speeding on the road, those cameras are there, and the staff is wanting to know if the board wants to take those down. At this point, it's a large job, a lot of expense to man those trail cams. So, board, it's up for discussion.
Has anyone ever been given a ticket on those trail cameras? Has anyone ever received it? You said it was for speeding. Has anyone what do you mean for speeding?
Yeah, I think Supervisor Dare misspoke. I think it was for overweight vehicles traveling on.
I'm sorry, overweight vehicles, that's correct. I was thinking of the electronic sign that we purchased for the residents of Cardox Road.
Yeah, so my understanding is those were put up due to complaints over overweight vehicles, and then at some point in time there was complaints that the township had cameras up on the road, so it was just kind of like a hands-off operation. So those cameras are up, they haven't been maintained, so, yeah, I suppose what the question is, do you want to take them down, do you want to leave them alone, do you want someone to put batteries in them and deal with
In my opinion, let's go take them down. Until, and service them. And, I mean, when's the last time anybody looked at it?
They were cheap. I remember the meeting minutes, they were cheap.
$69, I think.
Terry or Sean, didn't I hear somewhere that we had 21 traffic violations as a result? There was some significant number in traffic violations as a result.
I'm not certain. I know Jessica was involved with it when she was here. I could look on our policy if I had anything, but I think it was kind of more of a admin role and.
I think we did. I think there was a lot of overweight vehicles, and I guess the police would know. Maybe Terry and Bobby, could you check on that just to give the board the actual update on that from when we were active? Okay, so any of the board have a pleasure on whether to keep those up or not? I say probably remove them, like I think Chuck said, or they to at least service them and.
They need new batteries at
least. And evaluate. Maybe you can check back with the board, or under your administrative, we'll just decide what would be best. Maybe check with the police to see what the result of having those up there. And report that, please.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts from the board? Okay, 5, discuss Clare Municipal Authority Phase 2. I put this on the agenda. And I'd like to table this because I'm still gathering more information. It's still coming in. And I'm going to have some information for the board in the next few weeks. And I'd like to table this. The board is okay with that?
Yes.
Item 6, discuss handheld air monitors for Union Township first responders. This is a suggestion from, I think, Rick Lawson.
If I may speak on this, Supervisor Lawson, so we put this on the agenda from the last conversation from supervisors as well as the public on concerns about this, and I believe there's a representative here from one of our first responders that has a comment on this, if you would.
All of our trucks are equipped with air monitors. They do hydrogen sulfide, they do air type 4 meters, and every single one of our trucks are equipped with it.
And would you just state your name and where you're from for the record, please,
Levi Cox, I'm the Assistant Fire Chief for Allen.
Can I ask which model that is? What kind?
It is a Draeger.
Okay, I don't know that brand because I have one and I know someone has another one, but I just was curious.
It's a Draeger Type 4.
Thanks.
So, good news, already happened.
Okay, great. Thanks, Levi.
Thank you so much.
Okay, items 7, discuss Lobbs Run flooding complaint, McIntosh compressor station field visit.
So, Supervisor Lawson and Sean and I went up scheduled a meeting with the representatives at the compressor station, the person in charge of environmental stuff, and Sean can give more details.
Sure. Our files were a bit limited to what we had on the Harshman server, just due to that project began prior to us becoming the engineers for Union. But I did find files at the township and went through them. They were all from the conditional use process, drawings from their original ESCGP. From those drawings, I reviewed them and went out to site. There's a couple minor changes. There's an additional building which they had permitted under an ESCGB2, an additional ESCGB permit that included that additional building. So it verified that the stormwater for that building was in place, the stormwater for the site was in place, the site looked good, the whole site had grass, it was vegetated. There was one thing that they said was a problem when they were trying to close out their permit. There was an under drain in the pond that wasn't originally part of their permit, which they had done the engineering and submitted the information to DEP. So basically where Equitrans is at is they want to close out their permit, and the DEP went out there, noticed a few violations. Equitrans went and fixed those violations, just updating their riprap aprons. From what I could tell, everything looked on up and up.
Okay. And we did receive, we did receive a video that sort of spurred this complaint, and from what we can tell, that water coming off the compressor station is a designated channel that they already have there and is going into, it follows everything that it should be following from what we can tell.
Yeah, it's a natural tributary to Logs Run Road, which they're discharging into. The water comes off that tributary, forks out, goes into Logs Run, so.
Same thing for the gutter.
Okay, so.
I'd like to add, we walked the entire site. The entire site's grassed. They're limited disturbance. They're not beyond it. I think that site for soil erosion should get an A+. There's nothing you can find wrong with it. It's all grass. But once the water leaves their site, it runs into the creek, and the creek is not lined with rock. It will get muddy from there down. But from what they're discharging is not muddy water.
Okay. Sean, did you reach out to any other supervisors to go on that visit?
At the last meeting was when I was invited to it. I knew Terry had scheduled something to go to it, and at the last meeting the supervisors said, Sean, do you want to go to? It was
Okay, I just didn't understand why the supervisor, at least I didn't, as a supervisor, get an invitation to go to that.
Yeah, I apologize. That was decided that we were going to go up there at the end of the last meeting.
Well, I even watched the last meeting to see if but it wasn't really an invitation. It said maybe we'll go look at it. But I never got an email getting invited to. I might have been interested.
I apologize.
I'm sure you can schedule another meeting.
Yeah, they were very nice and very willing to show us around. So if you're interested in that, we can contact them again.
Thank you.
Heather, can I just make a side note on Logs Run? The road crew finished the work today. They removed all the signs. Ron sent me pictures. I just did not have time to print them out because they were sent at the end of the day. But for the slide that the road crew repaired, it's all completed.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Item 8, discuss Orema manhole inspections and PA Rural Water Association membership. Perry, in a quick minute.
Yeah, this has been discussed previously about potentially purchasing equipment for road crew to do their own maintenance and inspections, specifically pertaining to Orema. It came to the office's attention that there is a nonprofit entity called PA Rural Water Association that you can purchase a membership to as a municipality, and there is extremely reduced cost rentals of the equipment that we were considering purchasing. I believe that this is all in your packets, of course, all of the information, but Just for example, a membership will cost us $440 annually, and that leaves us access to their technical support for free, advice for free. They'll come out and look at stuff for free. Their goal is basically just to help rural municipalities with stormwater, wastewater, and drinking water. And then their equipment is, so basically, a representative from the company informed me that a flow monitor is $25 a week to rent, and they will either teach us or come take the information off of it for free, which is astronomically cheaper than we could rent them or purchase them ourselves or pay another company to do that. So because we have more sewer projects coming up, because our road crew is currently working on it, I recommend that this would be our best option to purchase this annual membership and utilize them and their services to help train staff on these new projects that we have.
I agree. I think that would be put on the agenda for approval. Yep.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you. Item number 9, discuss transfer of lot and Shire plan from Union Township to Shire HOA. This request was made by the Shire HOA president. I'm sure this is something that Gary may speak to.
This is the first I've seen it, but there are some issues. What's the purpose? What's the need? We do have the hurdles in the St. Clair Township Code on how you deed property or buy property. Does it require an appraisal? So we'll have to look to see if it falls under any of those exemptions.
Gary, my understanding of it, speaking with gentleman from the HOA, it's HOA's property, but when the tax office put the parcel together, they put it under Union Township's name. So
well, if it's a mistake, we can deal with that. If you agree it's a mistake, but if it's a legitimate property owned by the township, we just can't deed it to them.
So, Terry, do you think that the gentleman from the HOA, could you get him to correspond in an email explaining what he knows to be true with this parcel?
I'm going to turn that, Bobby spoke with him, so if Bobby's agreeable.
It's .02 acres in front, sitting in front of the water tanks, the Pennsylvania American water tanks. You can't build on it, there's nothing. And apparently there were other lots up there that the township sold over to them or transferred over to them. They want to know if we can do this last small parcel and transfer it over to the HOA to own.
But maybe because I'm missing ours as a contact, you could get official correspondence.
Yes, did this gentleman say
He called on the phone and spoke with me.
Do you think you could reach out to him and have him detail in an email specific requests? Have him dig up the parcel number. I think he should.
I already have that information.
Okay.
It's in your packets.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking it should come right from his email.
Like with an explanation that he says it's a mistake.
Yes.
We don't know anything about that.
And that we had it on our agenda, the board would be interested in talking about it, but we want to hear in his own words, documented words, what is the purpose. So the board can decide whether or not we give this to Sweat Law Office and spend money on it. Any other board have comments? Discussion, please.
I'm good.
Okay. Item 10, operational assessment ordinance recommendation list.
No update on this.
No update, but I know we kept pushing it off. I don't think any board member has given you an answer.
Well, yes, if you have priority, please.
Well, I did. Well, I know we've had this on the agenda for, 2 months now. I haven't heard anything from any other board members on where you should start in this ordinance. I don't have my Mike Silvestri recommendation book here with me tonight, but I recall him stating something about some of our ordinances preventing growth in the township. And I can't remember what ordinances he spoke to, but he said, is your intention to try to prevent growth? Because whatever ordinances are there are preventative of that, and he suggested that we look at them. So whatever is there, that would be my recommendation.
That's a great topic for research. I can pull that up and bring it to the board.
Okay. Anybody else, please? Please, we need all full participation.
I will share with Terry and the board, North Strabane Planning Director has gone through an extensive study of their ordinance and has made a summary packet of recommendations. That would save you a lot of time and money. I'll just copy that recommendation list. He came up with some things I never thought of. Electric charging stations. There are ordinances across the state that are developing, and we know how popular electric cars are. Where can they be placed? How are they monitored? And in that packet is a draft ordinance on electric charging station. That's just an example.
Okay.
But I'll get that to Terry, and then that might be a good starting point.
Yeah, awesome, thank you.
Okay, any other board comment or discussion?
Not for me.
Okay, moving on to item 11, discuss hiring of Kathleen Gallagher regarding Pliget accounts. Supervisor Dupree added this.
Yeah, I was trying to get clarification. Back in February, in an executive session, it was discussed the hiring of her. I had made multiple emails to Mr. Sweat, because it was unclear to me, like, did we hire her, did we not hire her? Because we never came out and did a board action to hire her, dealing with the Pliget accounts, but it seemed like she was hired.
I think she had been hired almost a year previous to that. When she was initially retained by the board to serve as special counsel, there were a number of items that were delegated to her as part of, starting with the Mader federal action. There were other collateral items that the board chose to give her. And the questions were raised about the Pliget accounts based on a forensic audit done by Mayor Duzel after the former treasurer, Judy Taylor, no longer served in that capacity in the township. Issues were raised in the audit, questions at least, and the board at that point in time thought it was important that they dig into those Pliget accounts. And initially, Attorney Gallagher was instructed to serve right-to-know requests on Pliget to obtain copies of various materials. That was a 3-4 month activity because it had to be clarified. She handled that. I know that there was a high volume of documents that Pliget produced. They did it on a special disc that was sent to Attorney Gallagher. They had to get a special technician to open it up and review it. She gave a report to the board on what she found. I don't think there's been any action, hardly at all, over the last year. But the last item that the board instructed Attorney Gallagher to look into were the credit card entries that showed up in these reports. And specifically, the board, through Kathy Gallagher, asked for hard copy backup on what were these credit card charges for, because there were many of them, and they were done on almost on a monthly basis. Pliget has not responded to that yet. That's the only open item, but it's part of her general engagement agreement with the township that occurred well over a year ago.
Okay, because I had emailed you a few times to try to figure out what, and then eventually, I think on the fourth one, you told me to call her, so I did.
You talked to her?
Yeah, so she called me, I think, yesterday. And she said it was a credit card transaction that she was looking at, a credit card transaction. And I just don't remember either being in the audience or being on the board, where the board ever made a board action to hire. And I don't understand why we would hire an attorney after a forensic audit was done. Like, she's not an accountant, so I didn't know to what extent or what. She said there is no scope of work, there's no contract for it, there's no limit on funds for it. It's $400 an hour, and it's one credit card transaction.
It's more than one credit card transaction.
Okay.
Either you misunderstood or she misspoke. There are multiple credit cards. I know that for a fact.
And so this goes back to when, 2017 or whatever, when Judy...
When the audit was done.
So what can you do about, what can be done about if there was something found? What can be done at this
what's
point?
found. It depends what is found. They haven't produced the record yet, so we don't know what those credit card charges were for. There's no evidence in any of the files here, and Pliget would have the backup.
So there's no cap on expenditure for it. There's no contract for what she's doing. There's no, she said there's no she has no contract for this. She has no cap on it. She has no,
Well, like I said, I haven't seen any charges almost for the last year on her activities on Playground.
but there's no contract for this.
There's an engagement agreement at the outset that talks about anything she does for the township, what it's going to cost.
Anything, okay.
On assignments that she's given, and this was an assignment.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, and let's see, moving on to item 12, discuss Arama pump station repairs for impellers. Mr. Bibby, quotes on parts. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Mr. Bibby is going to get us, we need an impeller, and he's going to get us quotes, and you're going to have it on the agenda for approve tonight. Anybody have any discussion? Okay. And I'm sorry, I know everybody's anxious to leave and how late we are, and I don't mean to rush everybody, but are you sure? No questions on that?
Nope.
Okay.
Barry knows what he's doing.
13, and maybe this will be something in the future that office can handle this kind of stuff and just send out an email and put it on as an approved denied. If you know. Okay, item 13, discuss update on inspections of generators at pump station and township building. Mr. Bibby is doing the same. Is this the generators for, no, not
This was a generator for the building and for the pump station. There was a fuel line leak at the pump station, and that was repaired by Cummings. So both generators are put out for the next year.
Okay, when do we see bills for those?
They were just here yesterday.
Okay, I looked at this, but I can't remember seeing Cummings on there.
No, they were just here yesterday.
Okay, perfect, Bobby, thank you. And does that help you out now that you've been cutting the bill pay list off? So you would in the past try to get that on there and get that paid, but...
Well, I don't even have anything from them yet.
Okay,
yeah,
good, thank you. 14, discuss waste management update, contract with waste management. This comes every year, it expires June 30th. Bobby, if there's any massive changes, you'll let us know.
I'm trying to do a comparison because they would like the township to go to using the mobile carts rather than putting the bags out, because they can then go from two guys, one driving the truck, one putting the bags in, to one vehicle that can lift the arms, lift the dumpster. But I'll do a comparison chart because it may be a lot cheaper than having the black bag with two guys because of labor costs and stuff.
Okay, great, thank you. Please keep the board updated. Any questions for Bobby on that?
No, you're getting two quotes in. From the new way.
Well, yeah, the new way and then what the old way will be.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Bill pay list, item 1, approved tonight payroll dated April 15, 2022, in the amount of $11,983.71 for 2 administration, 3 road crew, and 1 tax collector. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion for payroll dated April 15, 2022.
Dare motion, Lawson second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Ms. Dupree?
Yes. Item 2, approved tonight bill pay list for the Brentwood Bank general account in the amount of $145,325.20.
I'll make a motion to approve the bill pay list for Brentwood Bank, $145,325.20.
I'll second the bill pay list for the Brentwood Bank general account.
Okay, Lawson motion, Eskin second. Is there any deliberation?
Yes, I have one problem with this bill pay. So I noticed there was a company called Trident, and it was a deductible recovery company for the insurance company. So I didn't know what that was for. It said it was an employee-related issue. It said the claimant was Rick Kovach. And to my knowledge, he's never worked here, doesn't work here now. And so I contacted them, and they said that that particular Trident only had the information that it was a claimant from an employee against the township, and they were recouping the deductible, but that particular person has never been an employee. So that and the fact that Hal Ryan is still on that account instead of me, I'm gonna say no.
Bobby, do you have any information on that Trident account, the deductible?
No, I do not, ma'am.
Okay. Gary, would you suggest us taking that off?
Yes.
Okay. Can you do that, Bobby?
Yes.
And can you send an email to the board? Because I believe this is personnel in nature.
Okay.
I have an idea, but I don't want to say this in public.
Okay.
We need to find out what the claim is.
Okay.
Can you also can we just do the math and take this off the bill pay list? Unless you guys want to do one, and we'll be here for a while, but we could do the bill pay list one by one if you want to do that. It's up to the board. Either you do the math and we do a new bill pay list with that question.
I have the total.
The motion to pay the bills with the exception of Trident.
Okay. So we, yeah.
Rescind that motion?
Yes.
I rescind the motion to approve the Brentwood bill pay list for $145,325.20.
And the second needs to rescind as well.
My second.
You rescind your second.
I'll rescind my second for the bill pay list for Brentwood Bank General Account.
Okay, new motion. You can make a new motion.
New motion is to pay Brentwood Bank's bill pay list the full amount less what Trident's
Trident's bill, could you quote that, Bobby? Down to the penny for the record, please. Oh, you're doing the math, okay, sorry.
143,981.20.
But what's the amount of the Trident bill?
Oh, I'm sorry, 1424. $1,344.
That's the number you put in your motion.
So whoever made that motion to approve the bills minus the Trident bill for $1,341.
$44.
Yeah.
The Trident bill will not be paid, and the credit for that is $1,344 even.
I'll second the motion for the bill pay list for the Brentwood Bank, excluding the Trident for $1,344.
Okay, Lawson motioned, Eskin second, is there any discussion? Okay, roll call vote please.
Ms. Dupree?
No.
Ms. Deb?
Yes.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Haskell?
Yes.
Item 3, approve denied bill pay list for the Brentwood Bank El Rama Sewer account in the amount of $6,929.96.
I'll make a motion to pay for the bill pay list for the Brentwood Bank El Rama sewage account for the amount of $6,929.96.
I'll second the motion for the El Rama sewage account.
Okay, Eskin motion, Lawson second, is there any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Eskin?
Yes.
Mr. Dupree?
No.
Mr. Trax?
Yes.
Ms. Deb?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Okay, item G, correspondence. 1, correspondence from Peoples Gas regarding right-of-way maintenance at L&B, parcel number 640-011-000-00001100, 13 Mingo Circle. It's all in our package. Anybody have questions on the correspondence? Okay, public comment.
Burning Spear, 5106 Chevy Chase Drive. Have you all considered my request for increasing my recycling to twice a month instead of once a month since you're negotiating the waste management contract? I had requested you consider that a while back.
What I saw from Waste Management, because I went on the website and I looked and I contacted them, you can actually request a certain size of bin.
I have 4 blue bins that we distribute from here.
They let you pick the trunk size.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that'll be helpful. We could definitely look into the
There's other people that have asked me as they've come in to pay their taxes, whether we could get that increase. I did tell them I made it a request that that be considered, but I was just wondering, since the contract is up, whether or not you all have even proposed that and got a price from Waste Management.
Put it down, Mr. Representative.
Okay, thank you. And am I hearing this correctly? Is Supervisor Dupree following up on that? Or are we giving that to somebody else?
Doesn't matter, I just said I'll put it down like as a reminder for my son.
Okay. Bobby, do you want to follow up on that? I'm sorry.
We're keeping the old people awake. We're keeping the old people awake here. Even my mother heard that.
Bobby, could you put a note on the file when you're discussing talking? Thank you so much. Okay, public comment?
Kevin Dare, 6187 Route 88, Finlandville, PA. I'm sure you guys can see it, but I want to put Union Township on notice of a very disturbing pattern of behavior by Supervisor Dupree and her husband. Ms. Dupree has used her office to harass me by questioning my seat on the zoning hearing board that had no merit. Her questions had no merit, that I shouldn't be on there. She is also using her office in an attempt to silence my public comment by continually calling me a liar. Her husband has threatened me and is now driving past my property that I own on McClellan Road. If I could get a little bit of respect, please.
Really? So you're driving by my business 8 times a day, that's all right though. Slowly looking at us, giving us the finger, that's all allowed.
Richard, filming our children, but...
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, let's talk about the lie.
It's been a long night, Rich.
She has attempted to humiliate me while I was filming the meeting the last meeting. She also told the chairman to tell me to stop filming her. This course of conduct and the pattern of behavior by this elected official towards myself, I feel is harassing, hostile, and humiliating.
Oh, jeez.
I feel she is attempting to censure my First Amendment right to free speech in making public comments by interrupting me, saying that I am continually lying in my public statement. I believe this is an attempt to humiliate me and intimidate me into not giving any further public comment at Union Township meetings. Ms. Singer, I need to do a right to know. I don't know if I can do it from here. I need a copy of the last board meeting tape, and I need a copy of tonight's tape.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, order it up, Kevin.
Thank you.
Run the crew. Did the Trident bill have anything to do with harassment? I'm not sure. I think, isn't there a Mr. Kovac or something on Peters Creek Sanitary?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure is.
Must be that.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, remarks from supervisors and staff. I had something quick that the chairman's report kind of got disturbed, and I missed something that I did want to share with the board. Looking back at the minutes, I have minutes here from 2017, February 2017. Motion to approve adding Joan Carmen and Robert Dooley as authorized signers on all township accounts. Motion by Heather Dare, seconded by Charles Trax. Voted Richard Lawson, Paul Chasko, Trax, Dare, and Dooley. Abstained, obviously, but everyone else said yes. So this happened at the end of February, the 7 p.m. meeting. So there has been occasions where, at the discretion of the treasurer who's bonded to his or her personal detriment, have put things on the agenda because there's no other way to solve problems than to sit in front of a board of supervisors. There's no other way to solve a problem. There's no other legal way than to have discussion with 5 supervisors in a public meeting. It's the law. It's the only way we're allowed to do it. And if a bond issued employee has concerns over protocol, and that's exactly what that was at the last meeting. No one had an opportunity to talk last meeting freely. We were all stifled and intimidated to not talk. And obviously, I believe there was some false information put out to the public based on some of the public comments that happened here tonight, in the way that it mentioned that supervisors were stopping another supervisor from being put on a check signing program here. We can't wait for 5 supervisors to sign checks. The burden is heavy for only a few of us. If something were to happen to any of us, or we would no longer be here, who it's going to affect is these taxpayers sitting here and watching, and the ones that don't have time to watch. They need supervisors ready to sign on behalf of them for all the work that's being done in this township. So I just wanted to go back to say that. I was anxious to have that discussion at the last meeting. It probably was a good thing that we didn't discuss it, because I think it prompted the treasurer to do his due diligence with the bond company. And by him doing that, he realized his personal liability and Ms. Singer's personal liability in holding bonds, and soon to be Ms. Gladys's personal liability in holding bonds. And obviously our tax collector holds a bond. That's a heavy weight, and there's a lot of responsibility with that. And to the employees, you have every right to ask questions and put things on the agenda. Because if you don't, you won't know. And if things are done improperly, who it's going to come back on is the 5 people sitting up here. So I encourage you to continue to put things on the agenda. This is a transparent board, and I know some things might be uncomfortable, but they have to be discussed at this board table. And that's all I have. So I appreciate you listening.
Okay, so I have some comments. One, for the record, I'm sure he'll see that I never said filming anything. But what you will find when you listen to the recording of it is, when that agenda item came up, Ms. Stair's husband is heard on the recording saying, "This is gonna be awesome. This is awesome. Get ready, it's gonna be awesome." So like, as far as anybody not knowing and me intimidating anyone, everybody was very excited. Very excited. And there's no problem with putting something on the agenda. However, if a supervisor tells a secretary or a staff member to take it off, it should have come off unless another supervisor has told them it needs to stay on. There is no reason, when I stated and CC'd everybody, including Sweat Law, that needed to come off, that was an illegal motion. It stayed. Now, I don't know why Mr. Lawson or Ms. Singer didn't do their job back in January with the reorganization meeting minutes of January 3rd and add me to those accounts, or even give me cards to sign on those accounts, or even any information about those accounts. I don't know why that didn't happen, but it didn't happen. Now, even to the fact that Mr. Brining is still on those accounts today at 10:30. Now, as far as... Oh, there's just so much. There's just so much with the treatment you guys give me. So I have seen emails to the engineering department. One from Scarmazzi emailed if any of the supervisors would like to come meet. Let them know. Nobody asked me. I asked Terry for copies of the emails to Piscaric dealing with that pipe. 4 emails later, never got no information. Macintosh compressor site visit. No one never gave me any information on it. I have not gotten one email from any department here. Not a road crew, not an engineer, not a solicitor, not anybody, since a few days before the last meeting. So that includes the holding tank agreement of today. I emailed every day for over a week to Roberta. Did you get a chance to go to contact the banks. Can you give me banking information? I didn't even get a reply for 6 of those days. Now wait, I'm still talking, there's more. I asked multiple times to Gary about Kathleen Gallagher dealing with those Pliget accounts after 4 emails. Gary says, talk to Kathy. He is our solicitor. He could have just told me. He could have told me over the phone. I wouldn't have had to contact her. I've asked multiple times for Gary on the information dealing with BCSA mediation, such as copies of correspondence between the attorneys. His answer was he will review his emails and see if there's anything between him and Kathleen Gallagher that he hasn't already given to the supervisors by email. But I never got one email from him about any of that stuff, so he certainly didn't have to look through stuff to see if he didn't give it to me already, because he gave nothing. I actually have things from my solicitor's report in January where it states in the January solicitor report that he is looking to settle a matter. So I have to be careful what I say. But he will need the board to decide whether or not it's willing to negotiate, if so, up to what amount. February's solicitor report says, as we indicated in executive session, we believe the township does not have any liability, and based on that, so there is no executive session announced to the public in January or early February, nor did I participate in any dealing with that matter. But apparently after the board's executive session, my office has made a proposal. But I don't know what executive session he's talking about. So I do have some questions. You can't say that you guys aren't doing this to me. I came here today for an executive session at 5 o'clock. Everybody was emailed it. Did you guys see me sitting here by myself? Because they didn't come. They didn't come. They were all emailed it. They didn't bother to say they couldn't come. They just didn't. They stood me up. And they all got to pay that attorney and that attorney to come for nothing. They just sat there. Okay, so she didn't get paid. He got paid. He came for an executive session that nobody on this board told him they weren't going to make. But I'm making it all up. I didn't get a board packet complete. I didn't get a finalized draft agenda, and you can say that they're on the internet or not. I'm a board member. I'm a board member. Email me an agenda.
I think Bobby's not in here, but I want to ask Terry, Sean, I forgot your name. It's been a long night. And Gary, do you send emails to anybody that you don't include the whole board on, unless it's personally? I mean, I know that there's been certain correspondence based on some of the things that were said at this meeting 2 weeks ago, that you had correspondence between you and Supervisor Dupree. I've never seen them. I don't want to see them. But when you send an email, you send things to the whole board.
I CC everybody.
Okay. Does the other staff do that? Is there emails going out there that are going to certain supervisors?
Oh, no, I'm more than happy to open up my laptop and show.
And I'm going to encourage that. If anybody feels that there's some kind of
got the email about the 5 o'clock executive session.
So I would like to comment on that. And so I have counsel myself, and I will answer to my role as a supervisor in the future. I'm going to publicly announce that soon, and what I'm going to do in the future and what I'm not able to do anymore. So that will be coming shortly. And to the staff, I didn't see many emails this week myself, so I'm assuming we just didn't have a lot of correspondence. I know the engineer's report.
I'm slightly confused because I've sent. This is the second time I've heard Supervisor Dupree not getting an email that I know I've sent, and I don't know if there's a bug in the system that's preventing it, but it seems like something's going on there.
Okay.
Emails have been sent.
Do you think
just for public knowledge, like I've never personally sent an email to one supervisor, and additionally, the only supervisor I've ever received an email from is Ms. Dupree, so it's not like, it doesn't seem out of character for me to not receive any emails or hear any correspondence. It's just not a way that the board has ever communicated with me, but I welcome phone calls if that's what the board is more comfortable with, and I'll continue to CC the whole board if there's ever any conversation.
Okay, and just for transparency, anybody could do a right to know on all my emails through the township. Please do them, please. The accusations are overwhelming. It's hard to bear, and it's getting more and more difficult for all of us. And it's been a long couple years, and the lawsuits that you all paid for, you will find out the information and the truth. And it's a real shame because, I was accused of smirking up here. And it's hard to sit here and through this. It's extremely exhausting and taxing. And every facial expression, if we look up, we are chastised. We are bullied. If we look down, we are chastised and bullied. If we make a facial expression because we have a gurgle in our stomach, you have no idea what we're dealing with. We are being accused of grinning or and I see people smirking and laughing in the audience all night because they're enjoying this, some people. And it's awful. It is truly awful. As far as the board, I'm committed. We are a 5-member board. Everyone has to be treated equally. I've seen nothing that says we have not been treated equally. I think the keys need to be managed. I think an email needs to go out, and anybody who wants a key to something that they feel that they don't have, the keys need to be given to them. I think it needs documented. iPads that are issued need documented. I did that myself with it's on record, my iPad, and I'll turn it in at some point. Executive sessions. I haven't attended an executive session here since, I don't know, the last one we announced. I challenge anybody. Go and look, unturn every stone, do right to knows. Find out if I was ever in an executive session with any of these supervisors without publicly acknowledging that. That would be a major offense. I would never do that. Neither would, and I can't speak for all of you, but I don't think anybody else would do that here. As far as the draft agendas go, I got what everybody else got. On Tuesday morning before Bobby and Terry went to publish the agenda, they called me. I was working, and they said, you never commented on it. Because as a chairperson, I always look it over with them. We go line by line. We correct any typos if we can find them. And they give me updates on some of the things that I have to be prepared to present to the board. I asked Bobby to send me a copy of the current agenda because when she called me, I was working and I couldn't find in my iPad where the draft was. Other than that, I know that I could come and get it at the township at any time. I could get it on the website. I could get it on the Facebook page that you guys have created. But if any supervisor wants a current draft or wants anything from this office, they have been extremely helpful. And they've always answered everything I've asked for. And they get it to me within minutes. So if anybody wants something, please from the board, just ask. If you want to be invited to a Scarnese or to a Macintosh, just ask. There's nobody here that's going to reach out specifically to all of us and call and say, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? That's never been done for me, and I don't expect that. But I know if I wanted to interject myself in any part of this township, I put the foot forward and I made it happen. So that's the only thing I could say, and that's it. That's all I have.
I got one thing to say. At the beginning of the year, I asked these meetings to be started at 5:30 due to my work. I will never make an executive session by 5 o'clock. I work till 5 o'clock every day. At 4 o'clock or at 3 o'clock today, I was in Cambridge, Ohio. I don't even know how I made it here to the meeting. So, she said that nobody was here. I had meetings run late. I have nobody's phone number to call.
I have one supervisor comment. Mr. Bray left again before the meeting's done. As per my bond company's request, I needed to see if she's going to follow through on her own going to these banks. And I need to copy the bond company with an answer, and I need her to sign some kind of paperwork that she's not accepting the second-class township payment. Since her and I seem to be oil and water, I'm going to ask Mr. Sweat for some help on that. Maybe an email to her?
I may have an email on a couple of those items. I'll check my email.
Okay, and I've got to respond to the bond company.
I'd like to address the board real quick. Just concerning our bills, I don't have them electronically. Jamie doesn't have them electronically. They go straight from QuickBooks to paper. They get reviewed. They get printed again from QuickBooks to paper. And then I supplement them with all the supporting documentation. It's my understanding the board requests from us. I'm not saying we can't make them electronically, but they've just never been electronic.
I'm sure it would cost us. It would cost us. Like everything I do, you can't work for free.
Yeah, and it's not just Union Township. Every client we have, as far as I know, they get bills mailed to them. They get them hand delivered. So.
Thank you for your input. I'm sure we'll have discussion on that next meeting. Okay, there's public comment that wants to be opened up again.
I just have a question, what happened with the executive session today? If she showed and Gary showed, nobody else showed, what happened and why weren't they notified that it was canceled?
And could you state your name for the record?
Bernie Spear, 5106 Chevy Chase Drive.
Ms. Spears, I'm confused at your question, your pronouns. You're saying they, who, where. Could you be more specific? I don't know who you're
There was an executive session today scheduled according to Ms. Dupre and Mr. Sweat was here.
Yes.
The other three were not here. So was it canceled? Who canceled it? And why weren't they notified it was canceled?
So I'm going to refer over to office staff. I have no idea. So staff...
You didn't know there was an executive
session?
Oh,
I knew.
So then why didn't you come?
Is that a matter of public record? Why I didn't come?
Well, no, I meant if it was canceled, then people should have been notified. You weren't available. If you didn't have a quorum, you couldn't have done anything in executive session.
Are you asking if it was canceled?
Yeah, I'm asking why there was one supervisor that showed up.
Okay, Bobby, was the executive session canceled?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay, was everybody aware of it?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
So there is no policy in place that if you can't make a meeting that's scheduled for all the supervisors as a courtesy, you can't let Bobby know so she can contact everybody else and say you're not available.
Is there any statutory requirement for someone to not?
There's a courtesy.
Is this a courtesy?
courtesy.
Okay.
Oh, from Michelle, no courtesy.
Okay.
Facebook's courtesy.
We pay, how much do we pay Mr. Sweat to come here?
I didn't sleep last night.
Why?
I don't know.
My rate's 170 an hour, not 400.
What's the discounted rate? What is the discounted rate?
Okay.
Public comment back open? Kevin Dare, 6187. Even if that executive session did happen, and there was a quorum back there, they cannot make decisions.
They cannot vote, no.
Yeah, so you misspoke.
Excuse me.
Okay, the second thing is, Ms. Dupre could have went back there and had her executive session with our attorney. And she could have voiced her opinions and whatever she wanted to talk about.
What was the topic?
I'm in public comment. I don't appreciate getting interrupted. Please. They could have went back, they could have had their executive session and hashed out what they needed to hash out. But she sat there and she didn't go back there and say, let's have this executive session.
I want to scream.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, motion. Did I miss anything?
If I have a meeting at work, I
I'll
have
second that motion.
Here and God bless America.
Something's rattling.
Bobby, roll call please. I'm sorry. Ms. Dare? Here. Mr. Dupree? Here. Mr. Lawson?
Here.
Mr. Trax?
Here.
Mr. Barna?
Here.
Okay, and proof of publication for this evening's meeting is confirmed. We will move to our moment of prayer. Is Pastor Ken with us this evening? Okay. Alrighty, before moving on to public comments, is there one of our professionals able to time the public comments? Okay, thank you very much. Alrighty.
Wilson?
Since we're limited to agenda items, I'm just going to go to a few things real quick. First off, I saw we got the court order back.
I'm sorry.
I can turn it higher.
No, I need a name and address, please.
Chuck Wilson, you'll see it on the sheet there with my address. We got the court order back. I see for just a hearing concerning the sewage down on Philadelphia El Reyna Road, your property, Mr. Barner. Anyway, according to that, we've been sanctioned.
Please. Microphone in, I'm sorry.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. We've been sanctioned. What that means is we're being penalized by the court. Now, I'm sure Mr. Sweat's going to characterize this as a great victory because we only were sanctioned on one item. But being sanctioned on one item should be enough to try and remind the board here that we are still in the state of Pennsylvania and are required to follow the laws here in Pennsylvania. As far as to what we were sanctioned for, basically, you lied to the judge. That's exactly what the sanctioning is going to be about. Now, you can try and pretty it up however you want to say it, but you lied to the judge. And you're going to be going back in front of that judge again. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been told by other people that know that in the courtroom in the state of Pennsylvania, the judge is the closest thing there is to God. So that means you're going to have to try and appeal to a judge that's not going to be very happy with you because he thought his case was going to be done. It's not, obviously. And who knows how much longer you're going to be able to stretch this out. Now, that's just item number one. Let's go to some of the other items I'd like to go on. I see our Secretary and Freedom of Information officers are both back here tonight after they disappeared last meeting in the middle of the meetings. My only question is, has anything been resolved? Obviously, since they're still here, that means both the board and Mr. Sweat have taken responsibility for whatever actions they took. That means it's now your fault, anything that goes on in the future on this. That means if anything happens that, say, it becomes a hostile work environment for Ms. Dupree, that's on your heads. So my suggestion would be, why don't we just take those emails and make them public? That way everybody knows exactly what these officers all had to say, and everything can all be cleared up in probably a short period of time, one way or the other. The last thing I want to discuss is the bank account at Key Bank. Now, I wasn't here when this account was set up, but it was part of a project that I was working on. We got sewage to El Reyna. That's great. But we also have to keep a contingency account for anything that goes wrong with that sewage that goes into El Reyna. As I understand, most of the money in that account is left over from the account that was set up whenever we were paying a Penvest loan. I think Penvest would have a pretty high opinion of being able to keep track of that money. Now, I talked to the West Elizabeth Sanitary Authority officers, and we're pretty much in agreement. The only thing we really are responsible for is paying the money in that we collect from the residents down there that need to pay their bills. And we send it straight on to you. So that money came from somewhere. Now, as I understand it, that money came from Penvest. I think before you guys decide to start closing out these accounts, you might want to take a look and see whether or not Penvest is going to be really thrilled with having that account closed out. That's it for anything I have on the agenda.
Thank you very much. Linda, Evans?
Linda Evans Bourne, 22 Parkview Drive. My comment as well is on agenda item 11 and 12. It's about the Key Bank account. So it's on there to discuss, to simplify the administration of that account. From what I understand, there's only one thing that comes out of it and one thing that goes into it, or a few. So I don't understand what's so complicated about reviewing a monthly statement. So that just does not make any sense to me. We need to simplify that for, I guess, for time constraints. But yet on the 27th of 2022, July, we were informed by Supervisor Dupree that there had been a binder constructed of right-to-knows, of some selected right-to-knows, with tabs with certain people's names on them of right-to-know requests. Yet these binders/files have been laminated, oddly enough. In my opinion, it seems pretty complicated and time-consuming, a task for who knows what purpose. Time for laminating, not all, but certain right-to-know requests by certain taxpayers. Time to review, yes, one bank account that only has a few transactions monthly. And from the ongoing discussions that have taken place here from previous meetings, there is only a few activities out of this bank account from what I've heard in discussions. In my opinion, I would like to know why this account is constantly being discussed at these meetings. Something, in my opinion, is odd here. And then my last public comment on an agenda item, to keep in the time constraints, is attorney's fees and engineering on the bill pay, which is listed on the agenda here. Almost $90,000 in attorney's fees and engineer's fees, once again. No discussion about that. No discussion about how to rein those costs in. And then one last thing. So I made a comment about how much money we spent from 2017 through the third quarter of 2021. I actually have the budgets here that were done through a right-to-know request. They're Union Township. Do those say Union Township on them to you?
Yes.
So to make sure, because I was accused of putting out false information, I went through the math again and the actuals for legal from 2017 through the third quarter of 2021. I was accused of putting out false numbers when I said it was $838,000. And I stand corrected. I was wrong. It's $838,428. I will admit when I was wrong. It was higher. These are ridiculous. As taxpayers, we have a right to question these costs that are outrageous. And I did a right-to-know request the next day after the binder was disclosed here, because my name is on a tab in that binder. And I did right-to-know requests about a public hearing that was held here last year, of which this township notified me of, because I'm within the area of it. That's what I did a right-to-know request about. And I also did it about an attorney-client trust account, of which there was money put into and paid out for CSI investigators to investigate someone or somebody that we paid for. And for Brabender Cox, it's a Republican marketing company, was paid out of that account. And I don't care if it was a Democrat marketing company. I, in my opinion, don't think my tax dollars should be spent on those two items. And I do have a right to voice my concerns and my displeasure about that at this podium. And to furthermore, I got an email about my right-to-know request from Miss Scott here. I got a registered letter and a regular letter. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I didn't get a regular letter. I didn't go registered.
Is there another public?
I got a regular.
Any other public?
Bill Kevin.
Kevin Dare, 6187, Route 88, Louisville, PA. My public comment involves C, Board of Auditors.
If we're supposed to speak up, could you also speak up?
Just speaking to the mic is good.
Does anybody know why there was a meeting scheduled for the Board of Auditors on August 3rd, 2022? Does anyone know why it didn't happen? Because I was here along with other people at the time and date that it was advertised for. I see Mr. Spars in the audience. I don't know if he plans to come up and talk about why that meeting didn't happen.
Talk about it if you want an answer.
The next thing is, I'd like to know why that meeting was scheduled for 4 p.m. We've had numerous people come to this podium, actually last Friday, and complain that meetings were held at 4, at 12, whenever the people can't come. And it sure seems like it's good for some people, it's not good for other people. There was a word used, cowards. I'd like to use another word, hypocrites. Can't stand up at this podium and complain that the meetings are being held at a certain time when people can't make it, and then schedule your meeting at 4 o'clock for the Board of Auditors. And Lori Canavy did just that. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? Okay, we'll move on, and if we may jump backwards, I saw Pastor Ken. Pastor, would you like to do our evening's prayer?
Sure.
Apologize for my tardiness, folks.
Thank you.
Got the time. Let's pray. Our Father and our God, we come before you, Lord, and I just pray your blessing upon our township. Thank you for the residents here. Thank you for our supervisors, Lord. We ask you to put your hand upon them as they conduct business tonight. Be upon us as a community as we work together to see the common good here for our township. Again, Lord, we just ask your presence to be upon our supervisors as they conduct this meeting. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, supervisors' comments. Any comments?
I won't mind in the end.
Anybody else? No? Okay. So moving on, we do have an executive session to announce on July 27th, 2022 regarding personnel. So we can move on to B, department reports, and we'll start off with the engineer report. Sean, do you want to touch upon anything important, or would you like to elaborate during the meeting?
Yeah, I'll elaborate during the meeting. You all have my engineer's report, and it's all up to date other than some agenda items. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll just speak up as agenda items come up.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to treasurer's report. Supervisor Lawson?
Yeah, I'd like to make a few comments. To date, and I back it up, to date last meeting, we've collected $1.1 million out of our budget. We haven't collected all the real estate tax. There's a little bit of minor amount to come yet, picked up yet. The earned income tax, we'll collect in the fall. Impact fees, we haven't collected. I understand the calculation for 2021 impact fees was completed, and they will be told what it is. And the American Rescue Fund. With that 1.1 million, we've collected 55% of our budget. The engineers, we budgeted $240,000 last year. We've spent $118,000 so far. 118. That's about 49%. The legal fees, we budgeted up $185,000. We've spent $78,000. which is about 42%. The parks we're doing, they're going to be, a lot of that's going to come out of general account. We did get a grant for some of it. We have a balance of 2.7 million unrestricted funds. That's not including the police fund. That's not including Overlook. It's not including WESA. It's unrestricted funds. Our budget is 1.8 million. If we never collected any more money this year, zero from this point on, we're solving for 12 months. I keep constantly hearing how much we're spending from 2017 or 15 in engineering bills. This bill we're going to approve this month, Sweat Law Offices has discounted at $3,347.50. He's given us a professional courtesy of $1,000 a month, and he hasn't billed for 15.65 hours. If you would look at the bills in detail, this is every month. This isn't this month. He constantly discounts it, and I thank him for it. You guys can pick out a lot of bad stuff, but you don't pick out any of what we're doing.
Tell us.
Currently, we're working on Overlook and WESA. There's a lot of delinquent accounts, and we're increasing some escrow accounts. I think we're in pretty good shape as far as the money and the accounting and